episode 2. We are clearly bigger and better than last time. Our listeners may notice that we have grown a third leg.
Yeah, we've multiplied.
And we are joined by my very good friend Lewis Spragg.
Yes,
very
much.
Also known as El Stanklord.
Also known. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks to our new sponsors, Browns.
Yeah,
Browns Shield. Not
Browns.
full fat, only light,
Medium.
unfortunately.
Medium fat.
But thanks for jumping on board.
Oh yeah, you're probably going to see a fair few of these throughout the podcast. A bit of caffeine. Never goes this way.
And also, as always, thanks to Daniel Busher. He's behind the cameras again today.
They've also given me a mic, so consider yourselves warned.
He's getting loose.
Yeah, going to be chipping in.
Bit of chipping out as well, especially for you, Joyce.
Oh, I like it.
That was pretty good.
I like it. All
Alright boys, well today we're talking about probably one of my favourite footy subjects, and that's the draft. Which
Thank God.
yeah, no one's going to get that joke. But one of my favourite footy subjects is the draft. And while we have everyone's attention, I thought it would be really important if we discuss the well-publicised topic of Hannah Mouncey.
Yeah.
Obviously the transgender athlete. She nominated for the AFLW draft and was ultimately rejected on the
Just for this season, though.
That's right.
That's right.
Which is fair, I think.
That's right. So when I posted on the Instagram page about that we were going to talk about this issue, we copped a little bit of flack. People were saying this is slightly old news. What are you doing?
Keep going.
Okay, slightly old news, but I think, yes, it did, already somewhat get resolved, but I think this is going to be an ongoing issue for the AFL. I think this is just the start of issues of this nature that are coming up. And importantly, they didn't really come to a resolution in terms, there's still no black and white guidelines. It's not
They kind of handballed it a bit, would you say? Football
they didn't put a timeline on things. They sort of just shuffled it to a bit of a longer. Yeah.
It's still very open-ended, and it's still going to be treated somewhat like a case-by-case scenario. So,
So how does everyone feel about the AFL's decision to reject her application for the draft for this year? What do you think about
Well, I think it's fair. I think they had to go down that avenue, especially with the competition only being in its second season. Yeah. And some of these players are still amateurs, I guess. Or I guess they're all amateurs. They don't play football in the women's league, and so it's hard. I think at that kind of level, it would be hard to throw in a 100 kilo, 195 centimetre transgender player that early into that competition. I think it'd just be hard on everyone.
Yeah. It's a really complicated issue. There's so many arguments for and against, and I think what's happened a lot with this issue is a lot of people, when they first hear about it, they haven't bothered to inform themselves about the actual facts. Yeah. I'm talking the average person that you read on the internet who just say that is a dude in a wig. Yeah. And that's obviously not quite true. What's happened here?
Yeah. It's a bit disrespectful.
That is definitely disrespectful. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. But more than that, it's factually incorrect because Hannah has gone through these body changing processes. I really don't know too much about the science behind it, but she describes herself as being transformed. That's not the word she used, but she implied that the process is completed. She's on hormone therapy.
Her test levels were below male levels as well.
Yeah, that's right. So her testosterone levels were as low as they're meant to be. They were well below the threshold. But I think there was that really interesting piece with that. Kirsty Phillips, her name is. She was that former male athlete who is similar to Hannah Mouncey. She was about 100 kilos. Oh yeah, when she was a male, she was 100 kilos, rugby player, and she commenced this hormone therapy, or what do you call it? Yeah, I guess hormone therapy is the right term. Yeah. And now admittedly, she's over 50 years old, but she weighs 57 kilos now, and she attributes that to the therapy that she's gone through. She said that Hannah Mouncey has been doing this for about, I don't know, maybe 12 months. I think the AFL rule is that it has to be at least 12 months post-surgery, but...
I think because I was reading a lot about the IOC, the Olympic Committee. Their rules are you have to you have to identify as a female for 4 years beforehand, and then you have to keep your testosterone at a specific level 12 months leading up to the competition. Yeah. So did Hannah Mouncey is only been like a 12-month thing coming into this? Do we know? It hasn't been 4 years though.
I think it's been 2 years. I think it was only 2 years that she was.
I guess it's hard for the AFL to choose a guideline from like an Olympic committee, but I guess it gives them something to fall back on.
It is, yeah.
I have to say, I think the AFL's made the right decision, but the very strong argument against the rejection is the fact that if Hannah wasn't a 100-kilo player, if she was a 70-kilo player or a 65-kilo player, would she have been allowed to play? And I think the answer is she probably would have been able to play. In saying that, I still think the AFL has made the right decision, but you can definitely understand where people are coming from. Also, the AFL's been on a real equality drive of late. We saw with the gay marriage, the AFL came out with a really strong stance of support for gay marriage, which is great.
So to speak.
And I can understand why people might argue. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know what you're saying. Like the AFL,
they're picking and choosing their battles, kind of thing.
Well,
Well, not picking and choosing, but in terms of jumping on. That's another argument.
Well, that implies that they did the wrong thing, which I don't agree with.
Oh, no, I'm just talking about like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I see what you're saying.
In terms of. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think we've discussed it off air as well. The AFL sort of obviously wants to be very accepting, but I don't think this was ever an issue of acceptance, which I think some people are misconstruing it as.
Yeah.
It's an issue of physical advantage.
Yeah.
And at the moment, Hannah Mouncey has that, they believe.
Yeah.
To an unfair level.
Yeah, exactly right.
Affect the integrity of the women's league.
And she was, when she was a male, she was a international athlete, a handballer. So,
Olympic.
I mean, she was Olympic level.
Represented us in the Olympics.
Yeah. So, I mean, this isn't just an average male. This is a guy this is a female, when she was a guy, would tower over all of us.
Yeah.
She's taller than me and 15 kilos heavier than me. Yeah. And I'm huge. No. But on the other hand, there were two particularly compelling arguments she made that I thought were interesting. One was that she's not the tallest player in the league. There are women that tower over here. I think somebody made the example, there's a WNBA player that is like, I forget how tall she is, but like nearly 2 meters or something. That's called.
Brittany Griner?
I have no idea. Sorry, I don't know. I just know that there is one.
Because there is a lot of WNBA players that are sick. There's Brittany Griner, who was 6'8", and Mark Cuban, who owns the Dallas Mavericks, actually suggested he'd consider drafting her. She's that good, like in the male league, male NBA.
So what are your general thoughts, Bouchard?
Well, I do agree with this decision. I did like Louis' point about the depth of the league, 'cause that is something I have felt reasonably about the women's league, but they've sort of tried to pump it out a little too fast. The depth of talent might not be there, like in the fringe players. Some of the star players are truly outstanding footballers. They have me covered, not that I'm much of a footballer, but... the depth of talent in the league does need to develop a bit more before they could probably handle someone of the athletic gifts of Hannah.
Yeah. The other counter argument that Hannah made, though, and I think is quite compelling, she is on some pretty serious testosterone blockers, estrogen boosters, whatever it exactly is. That seriously affects your ability to perform, as weird as that sounds. I mean, physically on the field. She's...
we won't question it.
Yeah, we didn't say anything.
I felt like I was coming, so I kind of backed into a corner. It probably would affect your ability to perform anyway. But no, so I mean, it makes it physically harder for her to play. And I think her coach said she's pretty much in the middle ground in terms of ability. And if this is something that if that makes you drop 50 kilos or 40 kilos or whatever it's going to do, presumably to Hannah, and Kirsty Phillips, the athlete, the transgender athlete that I referred to earlier, she compared this medication, or whatever you want to call it, to the way they chemically castrate sex offenders, which fucks you up. So
and
there's that to consider.
We do have to say that obviously we hope that she keeps playing football, doesn't let this stop her. She's 29.
Stop other people first.
Stop other people from stopping playing sports because of reasons like this. Because if it's your passion, I guess you should follow it.
She took the decision pretty well from what I've seen. I know that she's somewhat bitter, but she did say that the AFL went about it the right way in the right spirit, which I
think
expected.
The Players Association were having a bit of a go at the AFL because they took so long and they kept her in the dark about it.
Yeah,
apparently
that's true. It was pretty late before the draft, wasn't it? Yeah. But I mean, this is a huge thing. Like, it could be a landmark case for because it's not just about Hannah and whether she has a physical advantage. If you set a precedent, you got to make sure it's the right one.
Yeah.
So if they make a decision and say that any transgender athlete similar to Hannah, is eligible automatically, then what happens when the next person?
Yeah, exactly. They've sort of buffered it across another year to give them so they can make guidelines in terms of this.
Yeah.
So they didn't just off the cuff just create a precedent, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah,
I mean, it's just an ongoing thing, and it'll be a while before.
Yeah. So I think all in all, I think they did well. They did the best of their abilities, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And
definitely, which you can't please everybody, but I think they did a good job.
I was a little bit worried about the AFL, as I said, being a bit. They're very socially conscious in that they're quite left. They're quite left wing. They're quite liberal. The AFL,
definitely quite progressive.
Quite progressive, exactly. So I guess I respect their integrity for not going too far with that. I guess, and still, looking out for the best interests of the other female players. Although another counter argument was that sorry, I lost my train of thought. They reckon the biggest people against this whole Hannah Mouncey thing were male administrators, and that the female players actually didn't really make that much noise about it. So you have to consider if they don't really care. I don't know. It's a hard one to draw the line on, isn't it?
Yeah.
They might not understand what it's like to be fallen on by a
well, also they probably don't yet have the platform that the male players and some of the male administrators have to express.
There were still females on the panel that did make the decision. It wasn't all
that's
nothing.
You'd hope so,
Yeah.
Otherwise it's a whole other issue.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Alright, well, does anyone have anything else to say about that before we move into the AFL?
No.
Yeah, alright. Now, that seamless segue into the upcoming National Draft, which, as I said, is my favourite time of the year. Now, what I reckon we'll go through today, boys, is we'll probably go through each footy club like we did with the trade period.
Yeah.
And then we'll do our phantom draft at the end.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that later.
And use that, obviously, to give a bit of a profile of the players available. Yeah. Like
who we like, who we don't like.
Yeah.
I think it's cute.
Who's hot, who's not.
He could do better.
We're also going to do a Bolters segment, so we're all going to give our opinion on
Andrew Bolt.
who we think, is going to bolt.
He's going to appear on the panel later on tonight.
Yeah. There actually is a player called Noah Bolter as well, so that would have been a better joke. But anyway,
first.
Someone took him in the draft, didn't they?
Yes. Oh, don't spoil it.
I didn't say who took him, I didn't say where.
Okay. Anyway.
Alright, so.
Well,
get started, just
I reckon we'll go club by club, and to mix it up, we'll probably go through descending order of the ladder.
Yeah.
So that leaves us with Richmond. Now, we talked about Richmond's off-season a bit, obviously, in the trade podcast, didn't we? So we sort of disagreed about this, if you remember. I sort of thought the Tigers should have probably been a bit more proactive with their trading. What they did instead was just they flipped a draft pick for 2 more top 25 picks, which you said, fair enough. But I just thought they probably would have gone for more established talent.
Yeah.
But as it stands, they have 3 picks in the top 25, and then a couple of picks in the 50s, and there's probably a few needs for them. They probably need tall forward, probably need a few medium defenders, and maybe an outside mid or something.
I think they could definitely do with a second tall up there to support Jack. There was a lot of rumours in trade period about Stringer to Richmond, who I thought would have been a good trade for them. Saying that, there's not that many key forwards in this draft. They're a bit rare, so
Especially their first pick, I guess. It picked him as a 17.
Yeah.
With 17. They won't. Well, speculate.
Depends. Sorry.
No.
I was just going to say, it depends on whether you see Oscar Allen as a true key forward.
Yeah, well, I guess the way the game seems to be heading the last few years is very mobile forwards, the big lumbering key position forwards that not making as much impact, or the games aren't built around them as much. So it's easy. You could see them, the larger guys sliding, and someone like an Oscar Allen that has potential to be also rotated to the midfield would be really good for someone like Richmond, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a great observation. I too kind of think I've never really been into the whole 2 metre lumbering forward thing. I mean, there are a few examples where they've dominated.
Patton, I guess, is the West one. You have to be very. Oh, jeez.
I think it's a small percentage.
Patton, Tommy Lynch. There's a few.
Yeah.
Cam McCarthy.
You could say. No, he's only like 193, I think. Oh, maybe he grew.
Yeah, something like that.
But either way, he's kind of more of a flanky style. But Buddy Franklin's obviously is that tall, but he's probably more of a oversized flanker than a real.
Charlie Dixon, I guess. But
Jeremy Cameron.
Alright, you can't stand my point here.
These guys are very agile though as well.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's right. But I still maintain. I think you see a very small percentage of these guys
stay at home in the forward line.
It's really rare to get a player of that height with the athleticism of the guys that we just mentioned. Like you have to be very lucky, really, to get one of those players. So I think it's much more safe, like Louis said, to go for that more mobile, a little bit smaller, 194, 95 who can run up.
So do we think that's what Richmond are going to be going for?
I had a rough suggest maybe a ruck forward like a Sam Hayes maybe, because they do that ruck might be you could say ruck's a need for Richmond. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't.
But they went with Nankervis in this year.
Oh yeah, they got Nankervis, but probably depth behind Nankervis.
Yeah.
They got Soldo, I guess. Marriage retired,
I think.
retired, delisted.
Retired,
Yeah.
I guess the knock on the Hayes, he hasn't really been proven much up forward.
Yeah.
So
He kicked 6 in one TAC Cup game, I believe.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't know that much about his forward prowess.
Right,
yeah, so I don't know. I think Hayes though is seen much more as a permanent ruckman, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, sliding tall. I'm going with is what I think they're going to go for.
Yeah, and I personally think Brandon is a good chance to actually slide that far. Not everyone will agree with that. It seems like his range could be anywhere from 6 to probably late teens, probably about 16, 17 for Richmond's first pick. So, and he's more of a key back, but he was all Australian key forward. So, there is chance he will develop that way. I mean, they've got 3 picks there, so they may reach for a Hayes, or if you can even call it a reach. I think they could probably, or a team could get him later, but with 3 picks, you got a bit of flexibility. Bearing in mind they do have a father-son this year, Patrick Nash, is an outside mid, so if a team bids on him, they'll just use one of their picks and sacrifice one of their 50s picks, and they'll get him, and that probably gives them some flexibility to go for a tall or a reach for a Hayes or something like that. Yeah. In terms of who might bid on him, it sounds like the Dogs are a chance to bid on him with 16.
Yeah.
That's just what you hear in the media. Really, it's really hard to tell. If he doesn't get there, I think the Eagles have a chance with 21 on Nash, because we need midfielders in general, and I think around 21 is probably getting a bit past what he's worth. I think he's worth a bit more than that.
Well, personally, I think being 183 centimetres, I don't think Richmond need that sort of player. I think they're pretty sorted.
That's true.
On their medium to small.
You have to have exceptional foot skills, I think, to play for Richmond to be that short.
He is. I mean, we're 6 foot. It's not too short.
I know, but in terms of the players they already have on that list.
Yeah, I just think to their needs, as
I think they could
a taller forward would suit them more.
Well, they have 2 picks. Well, 3 picks
within 17 to 20.
Yeah, 17 to 25. They have 3 picks in that range. I think they could do with some outside run. And to be honest, it's not that often a player doesn't get picked up by his father's own club. We saw it with Dunkley, I think. Was that 2 years ago? But I mean, generally, I think they like to.
It is always good to see.
Nepotism.
I think it's good to see. Especially the old timers can tell you all about their old man, how much of a good player he was.
Yeah.
True.
I'd love to see a few of the Dockers players start to have kids and they hopefully turn out good. That'd be lovely.
Yeah, it would be. I'd love that.
Yeah, in fantasy land. But
Yeah, Dockers players have
Like
kids.
what else?
Yeah. We all know they're infertile.
Doping scandal. You heard it first.
All right.
Right, next.
We're moving on to the runners-up this year with the Crows. We know that they shuffled around quite a few first-rounders with the whole Gibbs and Lever and Cameron trade. As it ends up, they've got 12, 39 and 77. I'm led to believe they're going to take 3 picks. So 77 will be used.
Right.
So we can take a look at their needs. You might say that they need to replace Lever. You could even say they might need to replace Charlie Cameron, although the midfield is the forward line is a relative strength for them. So
And they've got depth in that position, like Wayne Malera. Those sort of players can probably slot in a bit.
I personally think losing Lever makes Norton a really viable option, and I think he's someone that's predicted to go around that early teen stage. So just immediately looking at it, I think Norton would be a good pick for them.
Yeah,
Definitely.
But they got a good list at the moment. They
would be upset with where they are.
Yeah, they can probably take a little bit more risk in their pick than other clubs.
I think they're pretty good at taking the best available. I think they in terms of their past picks, and another name that comes to mind is Hunter Clark. He's probably he's a bit of a favourite for a lot of fans around that Big 10 range of those clubs. Yeah. Because I think he does just genuinely have that star factor.
Oh yeah.
In fact, I think he's everything. He's contested inside mid, good on both feet. Not by no means like complete player, but pretty well rounded. And I think I think the Crows would be lucky if he's still at 12 personally, but. Otherwise, Higgins is another one that comes to mind. That's right at the bottom of his range, you'd say.
Yeah, I'd say. And he could also be seen as a bit of a Charlie Cameron replacement. He's real that X-factor half-forward player. Personally, I'm a big fan of Higgins. I think he's got real star quality about him.
Yep.
So
I agree.
I think if they could pick him up around there, I think that'd be a real good pick for them.
Yeah, Higgins is one of my favourites. He's about 178 centimetres, I think, midfielder forward.
Yeah.
I think even if he becomes a forward at the next level, I think the chances of him becoming a good player early are pretty high. Yeah. I think there's low bustability, as I like to call it.
Do you think Adelaide will be looking for someone to improve their list immediately?
Yeah, you can make
that a sort of Port Adelaide route of stocking up. Well,
yeah.
they got him Gibbs already, so maybe. In terms of midfielders, I'm not sure.
They're set in the guts, I'd say. The Crouch boys, Sloan, now Gibbs, they're set in the guts.
They're like maybe the small forward role, as you said.
Higgins kicked 32 goals in 14 games in the TAP Cup, and in the kicking tests, 29 out of 30. So absolute elite skills, and loves a big stage.
Yeah. I think it really comes down to a club by club thing in terms of their philosophy. Do you draft for the next 2 years in mind? I think a lot of clubs will tend to always think in the future rather than... I think the Eagles, as I can say as an Eagles fan who follows them pretty closely, we tend to always take a long-term approach with our drafting. So it'd be interesting to see if the Crows are... Higgins is appealing to the Crows for that reason. But
well, you'd have to think... You're not sure really if they want to put all their eggs in one basket and just go really hard for the premiership in the next 2 or 3 years, or maybe they do want to take someone who's a little bit slower on the growth, but then they got a guaranteed good...
Is that a hype pun there, Joyce?
That sounded
actual. A guaranteed...
I think Adelaide's, their development programs is almost second to none in terms of the amount of players they can pick and that come through their ranks, and that's why they're basically a feeder club for a lot of the
I know. Well, it kind of good point.
Drafting and development, I guess it's a bit of both.
It almost offsets the inability to keep players because they keep spitting out these guns, and obviously a few of them leaving. I don't think this is necessarily connected. I think they might have a cultural issue. Maybe Adelaide's a shithole. I'm sorry.
Maybe the weather's not as nice as here.
I don't know. Personally,
could be the weather.
Too many churches.
Too many churches, not enough beaches. We got beaches. That's how we keep our recruits. Take them to cot. They love it.
I don't know. The
court.
I think Danger. Well, if you look at them in isolation, Danger, I think was always going to go to the Cats. Lever sounded like he was pretty keen to as his name would suggest. Flies there.
Money.
I mean, I think is Fogarty the only
That's
highly
true.
ranked South Australian?
Off the top of my head,
Because
yes.
I do think he is a small chance to be available there as well.
Yeah, good point. I forgot to even mention him. I think there's a good chance he'll be available. So I've heard a lot of people say surely they'll take him if he's there, but I'm not convinced they will just because he's South Australian.
Yeah.
But he is one apparently that has spoken about wanting to stay in South Australia. So you know, pulling a bit of a Chad Wingard there, and who knows.
I think Hunter Clark was saying on record they want to stay in Melbourne as well. But I guess every player kind of says they want to play at home.
Yeah, I think it really, like, when you're making an assessment of a player about whether you're going to lose them, it depends on the club how well they're able to keep players. If you're Brisbane or Adelaide, you probably won't back yourself in so much. Other clubs, the Swans, West Coast, Freo to a lesser extent up until this year, have good retention rates. So, you know, obviously it's a case-by-case thing.
I know a lot of fans are keen now to draft non-Vic Met players purely for that reason, just because.
Because they've probably moved away from home once to play footy, maybe.
I think the Vic Country guys, a lot of them have gone to boarding schools and stuff like that, so they've been away from home since they're 12 years old. They're used to it, so they're easier to go.
Even the WA rural guys, you see that a bit. They don't mind taking a guy that's rural WA a bit more because it's a bit more comfortable.
If you're an interstate player, you think your chances are that you are going to move.
Yeah,
really.
True,
especially from WA.
That's true. That's a good point.
If you're a good player, you could play an X amount of Victorian teams or
There's only 2 out of the 18 teams in WA.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it?
Oh, thanks, thanks, mate.
The one in there.
I thought I might have been wrong, and you're stitching me up hard there.
Simplify.
You forgot Hill Thunder?
Well, 1/9 if you want me to simplify the fraction. 1/9.
Now I get it. No, just chipping.
Alright, so who we got up next?
The Giants are next. Now, obviously let a few players go. Devon Smith, Nathan Wilson, Shane Mumford retired. Kennedy, yes. You know, they really don't have that much.
Yeah, they're another one that's probably pretty happy with where their list is.
I mean, looking at that, sorry, that's just absolute nonsense. I thought that lady who tried to do the Jamaican accent and fine. Don't put that in the trailer. Don't put that in the trailer.
Can you put that slow-mo in the trailer?
Yeah, Jesus. I don't help myself. God, what were we talking about? GWS have drafted so many players in the last whatever years. Have access to this talent. Yeah, you're exactly right. They don't really have any list gaps.
Would they want like a tough inside midfielder? I mean, they have a few, but I don't know. It's in terms of someone with really strong kind of I was like leadership or ability to drag.
I thought you were going
to get them over the hump. You mean?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess it's.
Is a draft pick capable of doing that though?
No, that's the thing, and they're probably looking for short-term success as well, aren't they? I mean, there's lots of people criticising them. You think, if GWS don't win this year, it's what a failure that is, and first-round picks and things like that.
I think there's a bit of bitterness in that, and probably rightly so. But
I think yeah.
Still, Gold Coast aren't copping it, and they probably had comparable concessions when they first came in.
Comparable, not quite as good.
Yeah.
But you know, they've just been poorly run, poorly administered, probably poorly coached, and probably a bit unlucky in terms of how the draft probably wasn't as strong a year. Didn't have many draft concessions. I'm not making excuses for them. They've obviously just done a terrible job compared to the Giants, who have done a good job.
Yeah, especially bringing in mature players early on as well.
They chose,
Brennan.
They've nailed their inter-club recruits a lot better than Gold Coast did as well. I'd say.
They did.
Callum Ward, Tom Scully.
Players that can stay for a long time.
Phil Davis, exactly.
Yeah, they brought in a lot of players. Like
speaking of Adelaide getting raided, Phil Davis.
They brought in a lot of players into that from that 21 to 25-year-old range. Or mid-20s who can still give them a lot of years of service. I think one of Gold Coast's issues was drafting older players, Jared Brennan,
state league players as well, or delisted.
Very inconsistent players.
Daniel Harris, Daniel Harris, I think. That North spud midfielder.
Harbrow as well.
They had Luke Powell for one, didn't they as well?
No, he got jumped into
So
GWS did things right, but I guess they came in second, so they already had hindsight of
Yeah.
not doing expensive.
I've got a bit of a curveball question here. Who recruited the better rugby player, Gold Coast or GWS? Carmichael versus Izzy.
Gold Coast.
Well, in terms of rugby ability, or
In terms of footy ability, I reckon.
You got to say Carmichael Hunt was the better out of those two.
Yeah, match.
Yeah.
He actually
After
played for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Players better rugby player.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm back to true rugby.
Yeah, so in terms of their list needs, I think we agree they probably don't have many glaring ones. You could say they probably might need a small forward to replace Devon Smith.
And Stevie J, even, because Stevie J was a
That's
forward.
What's the second pick? 27.
27,
Yeah.
They've got probably a need for a ruck, so I think they're a good chance to pick up Hayes in the late 20s. They've got 2 picks there.
Yeah.
With their first pick, they've been really linked to 2 players, if you believe the internet goss. So it's up to you. But Jack Higgins is one they're apparently a big fan of. And the other one is Ed Richards, who probably doesn't get talked about quite a lot, but he's a bit of a bolter, halfback, sort of athletic type. So,
Is he a Nathan Wilson type of halfback or more of an intercepty mark halfback, would you say?
Probably the former.
Yeah.
I'd say. Hard to make that comparison.
Yeah.
As I said, I probably don't know as much about him as I do about the other guys, because he's just kind of bolted into that top 15 contention. If he doesn't go top 11, he could probably slide into the 20s. That's probably where I said it. But in terms of the other picks, they've got a couple of academy players, or at least one in Nick Shipley. I believe Nick Shipley is their first genuine Western Sydney recruit. Or potential recruit, because they've got to actually...
Good to see.
Yeah, so apparently the Eagles, if you believe internet gossip, are going to possibly bid.
Yeah.
But you'd imagine they'd probably want to keep their Western Sydney recruit. And the other one is Charlie Spargo, and I believe he's actually not an academy player anymore. I'm not too sure what the deal is with that. But I think he's on the open market.
Yeah.
But another decent player, and if they choose to go down that route, late 20s is probably the go. So
I think Higgins is a strong possibility to go.
Yeah.
I think 11 is like right in his range.
And he feels a need.
I mean, I think that Higgins has higher quality than that, but just being a small forward, he's not going to be quite as highly sought after probably as other players.
Well, clubs probably don't want to spend a top 10 pick on a player that may only be a flanker. I don't necessarily agree with that assessment of Higgins, but maybe that's where they're coming from. Yeah.
So you'd have to think on that basis. Maybe they'll take a risk and recruit one of the taller key position players because they can afford the risk that they're not going to be as good a player. Because if they are, then they got another decent tall. So I actually think a possibility of a Brander sort of player going to GWS.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I'd say key back more than key forward, maybe, if you're for
you probably
GWS.
describe Brander as being exactly that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Because they've forwards, they've got Lob, Patton, Cameron.
Yeah.
Back, they got Phil Davis. Who's the other key back for them?
Himmelberg? Is he a key back?
He's a bit of a utility. He's a bit back and forth.
No, he played Darling, I'm pretty sure, when we played GWS. Kind of lockdown defender.
I think he is a bit. I think he's like more of an athletic, rangy type of. But I think he's over 190.
Yeah, he's like Cam McCarthy sort of
there's probably
dimensions.
No comparison, the defender version. So.
Yeah.
If anyone's listening to the podcast wants to have a drink every time I say Cam McCarthy, we're pretty hammered by that. It's not Cam McCarthy. Yeah. You listen, Cam McCarthy?
Alright, moving on from Cam McCarthy's former team, now we're moving into Geelong. We finished 4th, obviously. I got that right, 4th. Yeah, probably should not have let that hang. But okay, so they've got 3 picks in the top 35. 22, 24, 35, and then 57 and 72. Now, we talked about this again in the trade podcast.
Yep.
I feel like they've kind of neglected their youth a little bit in terms of, going for the now. So from that perspective, I think they probably need a bit of best available sort of approach.
I think, I pretty much agree with you.
I think they need a bit of outside speed from reading the chat rooms. that's what all the fans want. And a tall defender and some general forwards probably, so a bit of a range. I think they seem to be happy with their inside mids, although not sure I'd probably agree with that assessment from the outside.
They've got a lot of guys that'll probably end up in there that currently aren't in there, like your Heaney's, your Millses of the world. They'll probably end up in the guts.
Talking about
Oh, shit. My bad.
I was like, wait a minute.
No, we were talking about Sydney.
Great West.
No, we weren't. Never talking about Sydney.
Oh, shit.
We'll fix that in post.
Edit me out there, please.
We've got Gary Ablett coming in as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's exactly right. They've traded in Gary Ablett, so everything suggests they're going to be pushing for the premiership this year. But I think they're also probably going to face a couple more retirements in the future. So I think they need to bring as many good kids as they can. And
How old is Tom Hawkins now? He'd be 28.
Yeah, late 20s definitely. I don't remember when he's drafted. 06 draft?
Yeah, I think we went pretty early. 06.
Yeah. I don't think it was 07 or later. Definitely not 08 or later.
I think 06.
I guess 06, yeah.
They're pretty sorted through the midfield, you'd have to think.
Yeah, it's just about getting the next layer. Obviously, they lost Darcy Lane.
I think they've still got a few alright youngsters. They still got Duncan, Guthrie.
Well,
Guthries.
Duncan's older than you think. He's like 28 next year.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's same age as 5.
Okay.
91. Sorry, 27 next year.
I was going to say.
Yeah, okay, 27 next year.
Okay.
Which that's not. I mean, he's not old by any stretch, but definitely not the youngest.
He's only just become a consistent footballer like this year.
Yeah, he was really good this year.
I mean, they're always lucky because they're such a destination club. They always get sorted out at the trade table, so it means.
Is Geelong even a nice place? I can't imagine.
Maybe got beaches there. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Bit of
cold,
surf and stuff, I think. Bit of surf.
Society-wise.
Pretty cold, you'd have to think. But anyway, I think they've been very lucky in recent times. They haven't needed to draft.
Well, Dangerfield
as
fell in the
well.
laps.
Dangerfield,
Right.
they got Gary back.
And
Even Scott Selwood, who's come over for Joel, and he's definitely proven he's capable of
Tagging, he's been a good tagger.
Yeah. I mean, they had that off-season where 4 players walked into their club. It was like Dangerfield, they had
Henderson, yeah.
I was trying to remember. Zach Smith was the third one. And
he turned out well for him, actually, Zach Smith, I've got to say.
Yeah. I mean, there is some shrewd recruiting in that. They have to actually recruit them. But, a little bit of luck, as you say. But looking at their draft, Stephen Wells, their list manager, or head recruiter, I forget what his actual title is, but the point is he does the work.
Works there.
I believe there is S. Wells that works there. Swells. He is known for his left field picks. Darcy Lane is a good example of that.
Cockatoo even was probably a bit of a, would you say?
Yeah, maybe not to that extent. I'd say he's a bolter, but then again, we probably knew about it beforehand. I think everyone knew about it a day or two before. Darcy Lane was kind of like, what the hell? Especially in that 22 to 24 range, you can sort of really pull an unknown. But there's one guy I really think they will look at because they do kind of need those creative small forwards, is Brian Myers. Now, I know what you're thinking. What kind of name is Brian? It's like one parent said, how about Greg? And the other one was like, I like Brian. And they were like, you know what? Compromise. Split it straight through the middle. Brian! Yeah.
Be all the range.
Shout out to Brian.
Is that a pretty good Stewie group?
Brian.
But anyway, yes, I feel like I had to mention that because it's a ridiculous name. But he is a great player, a bit of a jailhouse stylistically, and he has the brown dreadies going on. So I think he will go early 20s, and I think he'll be a steal. He'll probably slide a bit, well, not slide a bit, probably go later because of his style, a small forward. But I think he has the potential to be like a pretty decent level AFL midfielder. Sort of
a player I really like around that level is Zach Bailey. I watched a bit of tape on him today. It reminds me a little bit of Jack Viney. He's a real small midfielder.
Influential though. You can
real tough though, real tough, impactful.
That's the kind of player that you think Geelong would go, like that's something they've drafted for. Tough midfielders.
That's true.
I think he would be a great pickup for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was reading they don't really need their inside mids, but if you look at it from a best available standpoint, I think he definitely justifies it at that point. In terms of some outside speed, I don't think we've really talked about Lockie O'Brien yet. He was he could go anywhere from about, I think, as early as West Coast at 13 to probably the mid-20s. Bit of a slider because he didn't really come on this year, but he's very outside, uncontested wingman.
Yeah.
But he's fast, he's got endurance, and he's probably the best kick in the draft in my opinion.
Yeah.
But he may slide. He's another one that they could pick up at reasonable value.
Outside mids, they're always really picked up on a needs basis rather than a best available basis, which makes their position in the draft a lot harder to pick because you're not sure whether clubs are going for best available or what their list needs.
Yeah, that's a fair call. I think the Eagles, we'll move on to them, but probably another one in line for a real outside type. But in terms of Geelong, I think they do need a bit of outside speed. Charlie Ballard is another one. He's a real, I think he's nearly about 6'5", but he's an outside wingman. And I think people overuse the Fife comparison just because he's a tall, athletic player. That's good.
He's another South Australian as well. Actually, we were talking about earlier. When we were asking about that earlier.
And I think he's got a bit of potential as a utility. So I could see Wells liking the real athletic type in Ballard. So and if they decide to go tall, there's a few talls around that 35 range. I think they might even have a choice of three, or at least one of the three, of Harrison Petty from South Australia, Sam Taylor from WA, or Oscar Claverino. Probably three of the better key defenders in that range. In fact, probably three of the top 5 or so of the whole draft. So they're in a good position. Should they go down to the tall route, I think they'll have a choice.
But here's the thing: many people Geelong supporters talk about having to replace their defenders. They've had a few retirements in that.
And Harry Taylor's getting pretty old now.
And Corey might still.
Did he pull the pin? Did he pull the pin?
They play for so damn long, those two.
I think he pulled the pin, but don't quote me on it.
I think he and Bartel went at the same time.
Mackie, he's still there.
I think again those two confused.
It's.
Or was it Longoran that pulled the pin? Monaghan, that's it. I was trying to say it how it's spelled.
It's not spelled. Longoran. Sounds like a place in the central wheat belt.
Shout out to Nungaran.
That was a bit of a vague Nungaran reference.
That's very subtle. Very subtle shout out.
Alright, now we'll move on to the Sydney Swans.
They got Gary Ablett, right? Just to carry on from my joke, my missed call from earlier, I had to make a joke at my own expense there. I'm not actually that dumb, don't worry.
Long sit up.
Sydney, sorry.
You're right.
What does everyone think about Sydney?
Well, they've got picks.
Bloody hate them.
14,
Pick 14?
14, 33, 51, 68. I presume they'll take all 4 of those picks.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Good coverage.
Another team who probably has a pretty good list balance, probably benefited a bit from their academy system with a couple of big talents, but they are probably in a good position to take best available. Probably need some good young midfielders.
I was going to say, I think a midfielder would be a great pick for them.
Yeah.
They're obviously well sorted in the forward line. Those real key guys for them, Hanbury, Parker, Kennedy, starting to get on a little bit, those guys.
They've been amazing at keeping a continuous transition. They've lost Goods and all these guys. McVeigh's.
Tommy Mitchell, even he was a loss.
Yeah, that's true. They're really good at transitioning these guys out of the team. They haven't really skipped a beat. They haven't dropped down the ladder at all.
They're a hard one to pick because I think they got a lot of really versatile players. Guys like Heaney playing across the half forward, you can easily see him being a midfielder. Callum Mills as well is one you could see going into the midfield in a couple of years. They're pretty set up. So again, like you said, I think they'll probably go best available. Based on the fact they don't really need anyone.
I think they're quite like the sort of contested inside mids, don't they? And if that's the route they go down, Charlie Constable is one that comes to mind. He's probably right in that top 15 range. He's about 191.
Surely they'd jump at him if he goes down to that.
If the Eagles don't pick him, or the Dogs, I believe, are interested, if you believe the internet.
I'd like him for the Dogs, actually, now that you mentioned that possibility. Because none of their mids, other than Bont, obviously, are really big.
I reckon they might lean towards using 16 rather than 9 on him, so that means Sydney should have him available. But he's a big 191, sort of inside mid, great hands on him, really good handball out of congestion.
Very Josh Candy.
In fact, he gets criticised for handballing too much, but he's very good at finding his way out of trouble and hitting moving targets. So That's certainly one.
I think a possible bolter is Lachlan Fogarty.
Yeah.
Pretty clean hands again.
Yeah.
Really good on the inside. He just looks like a Sydney type player to me. Probably a bit before his range. I think he's picked it around the 20 mark.
Yeah.
But
yeah, anything happens, especially, we are a fair few. How far away from draft week? Yeah, a couple
3 weeks.
Yeah. So much happens in the last 3 weeks in terms of where you think a player's going to go. So early days yet, but not a terrible suggestion by any means. So well done, not a terrible suggestion.
Here's a cold start.
Not your worst.
Again, I said Bailey for Geelong, but I also think he really suits the Sydney mould as well. So
could see him.
He's another bolter I could see going to Sydney.
Yeah. There's also Noah Bolter.
Yeah.
He's a really interesting prospect because I think he can play literally any position on the ground. Probably could even swing through the ruck. Could be a midfielder.
Yeah.
He's about 6'4", 6'5" nearly. So I can see them picking him up as a best available sort of option. They do have a pick in the 33. If they decided they need a key forward, which might be on the agenda as well, there's a young fella called Toby Wooler, who's probably one of the best true. I'm just looking through my draft notes here. Yeah, probably one of the best true key forwards in the whole draft. Because if you exclude Oscar Allen, he's probably the best. So, which says a lot about this draft depth in terms of that position.
Yeah.
But he's right in that line for that pick 33. So, another option for him.
There's no real standout tools in this draft, is there? In terms of, there's the possibility that a lot of them none could be picked from the top 10.
Yeah.
Just in terms of how the game is going at the moment for you.
Yeah. We just saw who's gone pick one. McCartan, Tom Boyd, and Shaki went pick 2. Those guys are still going.
Wiedering was pick 1 to him, who was also tall.
Yeah, okay. So we still see them going at pick 1, but in terms of the top 10, you're right. They're not very well represented recently. So that might be a reflection of the risk that's associated with talls.
Yeah.
Mids, you might feel more comfortable picking a mid. You can better sort of plot his projection as opposed to a lanky tall.
Clubs can definitely pay for, and we saw this big time with Jack Watts, picking a player based on their athleticism rather than their football skills.
Yeah.
A lot of the time you see players picked because of their athleticism, but at the end of the day, athleticism really has nothing to do with how well you read a football game.
Yeah.
And can even kick.
Troy McGovern is one of the best.
Yeah, and look
examples
at him.
of that. Yeah, exactly.
He's a true athlete.
He's a good footballer. Yeah, no. He's a good footballer, but he's probably not going to win any agility tests.
Yeah.
He's got some bunnies though. McGovern's got some bunnies on him. He can jump.
He's more of your truck puncher, McGovern, isn't he?
Yeah.
More of your Outback Roadhouse sort of player.
He's more Danny McBride. More Danny McBride than Michael Jordan, you'd say.
Yeah.
Those are a random pair to compare, Danny McBride and Michael Jordan.
He does vaguely remind me of Danny McBride.
Michael Jordan.
It was well documented that his fitness was at an extremely low level.
Can you imagine if they cut him after that pre-season?
Yeah, but
the fact is, Albany, the Great Southern League.
But the fact is, as soon as he got into the Eagles team, everyone was like, "Wow,
this guy can play
it doesn't actually matter."
Yeah.
If he has a couple of extra skin folds compared to another person, because he can read the ball so well, so powerful, so aggressive.
Yeah, you can make an argument though that's quite the exception rather than the rule. So when you look at the kid's skin folds, you think unprofessional. And that was probably what the deal was with McGovern. But not all kids are so talented where they can be fat as hell and still dominate and fly through the game like he does. But it's a fair point. You got to look at football ability first and foremost. So now we've pretty much moved on from Sydney. We can look at West Coast. Now this is a pretty exciting draft for us. Us two.
Who's us?
Us, just him and me.
Podcast.
Jesse works from in the club store.
Eagles here at True Football.
As soon as they respond to my emails, I'll work for them. So,
standing outside the club store, counts.
I'll be the list manager. You don't have to pay me, but I'll be the list manager. It's fine. So we've got quite a few picks here. 13, 21, 26, 32, 37. 5 picks in the top 37. we put ourselves in a great position to sort of load up on youth. We've obviously been criticised for.
Yeah.
So I'm not just talking to here. We've obviously been criticised for our lack of youth through the list. Look
The
at me.
Eagles,
yeah. And you know, we have a very well documented issue with our midfield, and I think with 5 picks though, we are probably. I think it would be a bit. We'd be a bit remiss to not pick at least one tall. So I think we're in a position to take a mixture of players.
As a non-Eagles supporter, I when I look at your side, I think you're extremely strong down back. You're pretty strong up forward, but I don't love the midfield. I think you got a couple of good midfielders, but yeah, I think you need sort of maybe another all-round midfielder, not just an outside midfielder. I also think you, especially with Pritis and
we need probably
Pritis,
Mitchell
Mitchell.
run and carry. Like sort of that's what we don't have too much of. We did with Pritis and Sam Mitchell. The only real run and carry midfielder we have is Shuey, and then even then he's been a lot less of that this year.
Yeah.
I found as well.
We could really use everything because you know,
It's true.
throughout the year I thought honestly one of the biggest burns on our midfield was the lack of spread from the contest.
Yeah.
In terms of us getting the ball back and them burning us on when they have the ball. Now losing Pritis and Mitchell might sound odd, but I think that's going to actually help that issue.
yeah.
I mean, I love Sam Mitchell and you know Matty Pritis is champion, but I think we could there's scope to actually improve our two-way running, which is I think that's going to help. But you know we've got to replace those guys winning the clearances, and we've still got to find those outside mids. So we are going to have to find multiple.
I think Constable would be an ideal pick for you guys, just for his grunt around the ball, and he's going to be great feeding it off to Jetta. Even Shuey is Shuey's very good with ball in hand.
Allegedly.
I was expecting Jada to be in the Wellingham club, in all honesty.
Oh,
He's got a contract. That's the reason.
Yeah.
He did play well this year, to be fair,
Yeah,
but he's lucky that he has another contract. That's fine.
I think a Constable would be great for you guys, especially chucking in there with Britis and
If we could pick up like
He doesn't help the pace issue.
Yeah, Constable and Clark, like that would be perfect because they're Constable kind of fulfills the role of the inside mid clearance player, but then Clark get the ball, he runs with the ball, beats beats off players.
That's another added plus.
he beats players and he can find space while still moving the ball.
That's
forward,
true.
Which is what we don't have.
Well, I think he's a more complete player than Constable for that reason. I think Constable. I'm not against the selection at all, but he probably doesn't help our pace issue, as I said. I think Clark has got the tools to become a very high-level AFL player. The only issue with Clark is I don't think he's going to be there at 30.
Yeah, neither do I.
Personally, yeah. The other one we've been linked to heavily, and you can take this with a grain of salt, because it might just be lazy journalism, but it's Oscar Allen. I do think we definitely need to start preparing for life after Kennedy. I don't think there's anyone on the list I'd be confident to say move up to replace him at the moment. You know, Matthew Allen's the only key forward we have outside the 22. Jake Waterman maybe.
Yeah.
If you
then again, they're not key forwards, position players.
Yeah.
And then again, the game might be moving less away from that.
Bobby Bryant's another one. I think he's proven through the draft camp he's got elite running capacity. He's 184, so.
He's a very West Coast pick because we really favour our foot skills.
I could see him being real good if, like you said, you wanted that spread from the contest.
Yeah, I think we could hold off and try and get him at 21.
Yeah.
Personally, I think 13 would be a reach. That being said, I wouldn't be disappointed.
I would probably be disappointed if we went.
Yeah.
I'd probably be kind of disappointed if we went Allen.
I mean,
13.
it's
Depends
a tough
who's
one.
available though.
It's a tough one because, as we said, they're both sort of in between your first and your second rounders.
Yeah.
And again, as Jess is saying, it completely depends on how many tools get picked in that first top 10. Because if there's none, then it's very, very thin in terms of true line midfielders. I mean, then you're moving into halfback flankers or people with a limited exposure forms of midfield, like your Oscar Allens and things like that.
Yeah.
Could the Eagles use a halfback flanker, maybe?
No, we have so many.
Oh yeah, Yo, I guess Yo, yeah.
Yeah,
Yo.
Rawlings has come out and said we're well overstocked for medium defenders, and he's right. What you might not know as a non-Eagles fan is we have a lot of younger guys we've drafted in recent years who haven't necessarily got games yet.
Who do you think out of those youngies? Because I'd probably know the names, but I don't.
Tom Cole.
Okay, yeah, Tom
pretty
Cole,
highly
yeah.
rated internally. Yeah, Francis Watson had a pretty good waffle season. Josh Rotham's a fan. He's a fan of mine. He's a favourite of mine. And Jack Nelson. You know, a lot of these medium defender types.
Yeah.
Cole Duggan. Yo Duggan already played.
Yeah, because I haven't been exposed to those guys. So
Yeah. You haven't exposed yourself to those guys yet. So,
mate, only people in Perth I haven't exposed myself to. I'm joking.
There is a bit of good raps for Waterman, Rioli, and Venables.
Yeah.
All had their injury issues during the last season.
Yeah.
So I think people might look at the Eagles' first 22 and think, just looking at that they have a youth problem, and they forget maybe there's a few available now that weren't available in the last season.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I agree with that. I think we talked about in the Trade podcast. We haven't got anything out of last year's draft, not a single game yet, and I think they're all pretty talented kids. So we're going to look a lot better when we get all those kids played at the same time.
Yeah.
At the risk, we don't want to labour too long on the Eagles, but moving through the rest of the draft, as I said, I think we've got a mix. Small forward is always a constant issue, even though we've got Rioli. So that Brian Miles will be an option.
Back again.
God, I can't rate him.
Brian is knocking on the door.
I really just don't want to play called grind on him.
What do you reckon about reaching for a local mature guy like that later pick, like a Luke Ryan or a Timmy Kelly or whatever?
Liam Ryan.
Or Jesse McClure.
Liam Ryan, sorry.
Or Jesse McClure, yeah. Real bottom heavy.
I thought he'd be gone by pick 67.
Jesus. How do we even unpack that? Good question, Busher. Tim Kelly, I think I really hope he's on our radar. I think we'd have to take him to 26. I believe Carlton might like him at 30. I can see us missing out on him because we don't want to take him too early. So, other than that, we got Hayden Schleith, who I don't particularly want. I can see him being picked up at 67.
I'd say disappointing to pick him in.
Even at 67, I think I'd rather not just pick up another Hutchings. But maybe that's
Standover medalists though. Like you've seen some of them. They're handy for depth if nothing else.
I think
you're harsh. I think he could be serviceable.
Well, I mean, it is a bit harsh if I don't explain it, but I guess his skill set as a small nuggety sort of inside mid.
Like the Menegola kind of...
See, Menegola what Menegola has over him is size, the skill. I think he's got a lot more... ability.
Talent.
Just take Schleith to 10 right now.
But Menegola could actually break the lines inside mid. I just think he's much more AFL applicable a talent. I think Schleith would just add to the bit of a midfield glut with our small, less pacey midfielders.
So you wouldn't want the depth type thing?
I don't think we need him. I'd literally rather have an 18-year-old as depth than
have a crack.
We did have that kind of player for the last 10 years.
And I think his scope is probably like another Mark Hutchings. Personally, I just don't think we need that. By comparison, Tim Kelly's different. Had a waffle game where he kicked 7 goals from the middle, had 35 possessions. It's the most ridiculous performance I've ever seen. As a genuine inside-outside mid. So,
but Kelly's got to be a flight, or not, maybe not a flight risk, but he's got a kid here, and he's got the twins on the way as well, and his family's all from here. It would be very hard. A team would have to trust their culture pretty strongly to.
Well, surely he'd be looking to take family.
Well, I guess it's hard with...
Still, like you saw with Wilson, he came back so his family could help him with his family.
Yeah, that's the thing, like grandparents and things, looking after kids and that kind of thing. If you move someone with like a very small support network, it'd be hard, I think. I'm sure teams have looked at that, but again, it's probably hard for West Coast to decide to pull the trigger on him, or do they think that will keep other teams off from picking him until
also with Timmy Kelly, I think he's pretty close with his extended family because you see them around a fair bit. They're pretty tight-knit, his extended family.
Yeah, I think he's part Indigenous, I believe. And
part South American as well.
South American, so we also read the same article. So interesting heritage there.
It's in his Wikipedia page.
I versed him in basketball one time as well. Yeah,
I bet he was...
He's a gun at basketball as well, and he was like 16, 17 at the time, and he was a gun, dunking.
Yeah. All right, now we should move on to Port. Now we know lots about how they've sort of approached this off-season, learning up on their recycling program. So,
Adelaide, 10 cents.
Not a fan of Jack Trengrove, are you?
No, not really. It's just a cheap shot. I think he's probably not like. I'm not going to bank on him making it, but on the whole, you know, you got to look at on the whole, you got to look at this podcast. You got to look at the risk that they've faced, and I really don't think there's too much risk for the reward that they could potentially give up. You know, they've traded out at the draft somewhat, but you know, they've actually got some genuine talent in, like Rockcliffe in particular.
Yeah. Again, inconsistent players.
Yeah.
But as you said, it's very kind of low risk, high reward.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Bit of their MO, even with Charlie Dixon, he was a bit like that when he first came in. He's panned out, obviously, but he was a bit of a...
Trent McKenzie, who also from the Gold Coast, listed free agent, I believe.
There is some upside there, just because he's just got attributes where you can put him in a role. You don't have to rely on him, but he can.
It's hoping that change of culture.
Who is this, McKenzie, you mean?
Trent McKenzie, yeah.
What role do you think? Just give him the ball and say bomb at 70 metres, please. Is that pretty much his role?
It's a Gold Coast, though.
That's the sort of recycle player you should be targeting. Someone whose skill set you can use specifically.
That might have not been utilised enough, or
or Trent McKenzie's never played in a good team. So if he's utilised, if he can downhill ski, then he could probably be very damaging. So
when's their first pick?
46. They're probably just mids, KPD, best available. You know, at 46, I don't think you should be too picky with your needs. I think you should be pretty much best available, personally.
I personally think Port, people might disagree, I think they've shot themselves in the foot by giving away high draft picks. I think the players they brought in are risk players, and I could easily see only one out of the five of them being
Jack Watts as well,
consistently good.
Bear in mind though, their first draft pick this year was already gone. Their highest pick this year was 31, which they gave up for Watts. So they didn't really give them any first rounders. What youth do Port Adelaide? Do Port Adelaide have tons of youth coming through? I think they're banking big time for the now. They're taking risks. If this doesn't come off, they could be in a dark place, I think, in a few years, Port Adelaide. Again, you're right, but I think that's true of any contender who's loading up a little bit. I don't think they neglected their youth too badly, in the sense that, well, if you look at this off-season in isolation, they already didn't have great picks. They have loaded up for now. I don't think their outgoings are that high, considering how many listed free agents are there, like 2 or 3. It might make up Lindsay Thomas as well, who I really doubt will play a game.
They've also traded away picks for Dixon in the past.
That's
well.
True. But you could say that Dixon was justified.
I think it's more. Yeah, you could with. But
Dixon definitely fills a need for them.
I think Dixon.
There's a joke there somewhere.
Let's not pick the low-hanging fruit.
I think Dixon was a good pick, but again, they haven't got as much talent in the youth coming through.
No, that's true.
And
Sam Pepper.
I think the players they bought in, pretty much none of them are guaranteed to.
No.
Apart from maybe Rockcliffe.
To
play in their first 22 every week.
On the other hand, though, they must be pretty happy with their last draft. They took Todd Marshall and Sam Pepper, both who played games this year. Even Todd Marshall had a pretty good year.
Pepper, arguably the steal of that draft, you could say. Arguably.
Early days.
Argument, there's an argument there.
Because you can't kick, but he overcame that.
Didn't stop you, believe Critters.
I'm not being harsh. That was the knock on him. That's why I think that's why the Eagles didn't pick him personally. But he's overcome it so far. I think he's going to be a very good player. In terms of players, just names to throw out there for guys they could pick. There is Cassidy Parish this year, who I reckon is an inside mid that could fall around that range. This is his brother Darcy. A bit of a taller inside mid, more than Darcy. There's also James Warple, may or may not be that late, another good inside mid. Or Jack Petruccelli, he's extremely fast guy. I think that those kind of names will be another fast inside mid. Those sort of names will be there. The other thing is they're considered the favourite from Liam Ryan.
Okay.
So that's another interesting.
Would you say that's a bit of a Jarman Impey sort of maybe replace?
A
bit different. They're different players, but maybe Liam Ryan could play that fast, sort of pacey.
I think Motlop was.
Motlop. Yeah, they've got Motlop as well.
I was going to say Liam Ryan might be. Lindsay Thomas might be if they don't get Liam Ryan.
Yeah.
Surely
they haven't
rather than over
exactly,
Thomas.
Exactly, but they haven't signed Lindsay Thomas.
Yeah.
Oh, so they're whining and dining him on the possibility of signing him. Is that what you're sort
What's
of...
the next one?
Is that what the rumours are?
Maybe not
Would you say?
formally.
Yeah.
Well, they keep getting linked to Thomas, but it hasn't happened yet, and they've had plenty of time to sign him.
Yeah.
So they may be waiting to the draft to see what kind of players they can get.
Thomas has formally, I believe, requested to be
North Melbourne.
delisted.
Yeah.
So you'd have to think...
I think he's already done. Yeah.
You'd have to think that there was a pretty firm offer from Port Adelaide for him to ask
I
that.
see what you're saying. As far as I know, he's gone, but maybe you're right. Maybe I need to look at the language more to see exactly where that is in terms of whether it's happened yet.
I mean,
Yeah, I do remember hearing that he did one out.
from what I've read, he requested...
Interesting.
And North Melbourne obliged, obviously.
Yeah, so you'd have to think that he has an offer on the table for him to do that, unless he just wants a break
That's
from
a fair
playing
point.
professional footy.
That's a fair point, but again, why hasn't it happened yet? That's the thing.
Port would trust their culture there. That they've got an Indigenous program and a very Indigenous academy. I think they just opened up as well.
Yeah,
so they would trust to bring Liam Ryan over.
Hopefully, I heard a little bit of rumor on Big Footy as reliable as the source it is, but apparently, you know what? I'm starting to get the critical points of the story. But they basically the recruiters turned up for some event that he was meant to be at. It wasn't the combine because he was at the combine, but maybe some sort of carnival, and he just blatantly didn't show up. And I think there's a bit of concern. I think apparently Port were pissed. Just relaying a...
Yeah, can't take that one.
No, it's fact. But,
that's no one's Wikipedia page.
We'll just run with it.
You heard it here first.
True Footy podcast exclusive.
Yeah, he'd be a good pick for. He'd actually be a very good pick for around that range for Port Adelaide.
Yeah. Another one who can play now, and low risk, high reward. So. All right, now we'll move on to Essendon, another team who's traded out of the draft somewhat. First pick at 48. Probably just need to load up on a few mids, I reckon, and maybe get that ruck in. So I think 48's a bit too late for Hayes, but there's a few guys like Johnny Frampton or Tom de Kooning, if I'm saying that right, as young rucks.
Yeah.
And they might be interested in Cassidy Parish, who I mentioned a second ago, for the fact that he's brother of
Cassidy or Cassie?
Cassidy's nuts.
Because it says here Cassidy. It says Cassidy, not Cassie.
It's Cassidy.
Yeah. You said Cassie.
I did not say Cassidy.
I'm pretty sure you did.
Cassidy's nuts.
Thought you were gonna dab. I was gonna zoom in on you, and
wasted opportunity.
you would have gone love it.
Well, yeah, I mean, Watson just retired, didn't he? They've got, probably thin on the midfield.
I'm looking at the drafts when they were shit. So I think we just lost the camera.
Okay. Hopefully not the one facing us.
Could be the one facing me.
We have to cut to
Push it for the rest of it.
Just me. You said that.
Well, no, they can hear us.
More my facial reaction to what you say, like.
You said that. All right. Anyway, Cassie. Okay. Where the hell were we? I was going to say, in the recent drafts when they've sort of had a good picks, they've taken a lot of utilities. So they might be after an actual genuine mid to add to, Hugh McGrath. They've taken guys like Francis, the utility, Langford, Laverty, Ridley, and Begley. I'm pretty sure maybe you could say one of those is an inside mid. But my point is, pure mids might be the go.
They're a tough one to pick, Essendon, because you could honestly see them finishing anywhere from like one of the bottom teams to like 6th or 5th.
They're a proud club, I guess. You could they don't like bottoming out. Kind of thing. Like they're very like Geelong in that sense. Maybe not the same scale. But in terms of.
You're right. They don't
You've got to
spend much
respect them for that after all they've been through. I don't think anyone thought they would do as well as they did.
I reckon they could really be the next Richmond Bulldogs sort of team that no one sees coming.
I don't know why that didn't happen with St Kilda. Why didn't everyone? I guess they're playing Collingwood, but there's no real. St Kilda haven't won a grand final in 50 years.
I was going for them for that reason.
That's what it's like. But there hasn't been the same fanfare as there was over
Richmond.
Richmond.
It's just true. I think Richmond were more universally chipped out.
That's the thing, mate. Chipped out.
There would be Richmond a lot more supporters as well.
That's
Yeah,
same as Collingwood.
yeah, that's true.
It was St Kilda against any other interstate team. It would have been St
I
Kilda.
mean, against Collingwood, they were when they played for their premiership, so they're playing against the biggest club, so it's always going to be harder
to stand out. Yeah, I know.
to anchor the support.
Yeah.
I don't know if Essendon has the list for that though, like the list balance.
Yeah, no,
Maybe not, yeah.
I
But
can't.
nobody would
Richmond
say
finished 13th.
No one has said that Richmond or the Bulldogs.
Groups thought that
frankly.
inconsistent.
Yeah.
Even 1 week before the finals, people would have written off the Dogs. So,
It's true. Yeah.
anyway, so bottom line with Essendon, very hard to pick because they've got so many late picks.
Yeah.
I think there'll be a midfield focus.
Okay, so, and before we get into the next team, we'll just have a little break and we'll be back with you in a second.
Melbourne selections 29, 31, 36, 47 and 84. You'll think they'll at least use the first 4 of those. Needs probably maybe a key forward to sort of partner Hogan.
Yeah.
There's also maybe a need for an outside mid or something like that. And they've just added Jake Lever obviously to the defensive stuff. Lever to their defensive ranks. They've added a young inside mid in Harley Ballick.
Yeah.
Now, I guess with 29, they're probably in the range to pick up with the player we talked about earlier, Toby Wooler, as a key forward prospect. Otherwise, I could see them going for some outside types.
Yeah.
What do you reckon they need to?
Yeah, it's a tough one.
I mean, there's another key forward in that range. I think the player we talked about off air a bit, Callum Coleman-Jones. It's a bit unknown where he's going to fall at the moment. Probably won't need to use him at 29, but they've got picks 36 and 47 there, which might be more applicable as a forward ruck option.
Yeah.
And, Sam Hayes is another one if they decide to go down that route. So.
What do they like? I've got small forward written down here for some reason.
Yeah, no, I have that as well.
Yeah, coincidental. Who was the Carlton player that they? Who's the small forwards at the moment?
Jeff Garlett?
Jeff Garlett.
Yeah.
They're not like going forward. I mean, they had Tom McDonald as the defender playing in the forward line.
Yeah,
for
that's
a
true.
while.
Yeah.
So they are a bit thin.
There was that when
inside
Hogan
the
was
ground.
down and out.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I think they probably do need at least another forward option. I don't think Oscar Allen's going to fall that far.
No.
So they may have to go for the Wooler option. Or Callum Coleman-Jones, as we said. But, these guys aren't going to play from round 1 in the first season, so they're going to be long-term prospects. Another one we haven't talked about, I could see young Riley Stoddart being an option for them later in the draft. Funnily enough, he just followed us on Instagram during that hour and 45-minute break. So I think you should go pick one, personally. Wait, no, not to Brisbane. So they've got a few options. There's a young fella called Starcevic from WA who I could see going to Melbourne. They've got quite a few picks around that range. They could probably take it, a project player in that. Charlie Ballard, Jordan Houlihan, these kind of types. But not too much of a handle on who they're going to pick, if I had to guess.
They're a bit of a tough one, actually.
Yeah. So, right, moving on that wholly unconvincing analysis of Melbourne.
You're not sure about them, really?
Yeah, generally just have no clue. We move on to last year's premiers. Now, they're an interesting one because they've got picks. This is the Bulldogs, I should clarify. Picks 9 and 16, so 2 picks in the first round after the last stringer. Their third pick isn't until pick 82, so I believe they have committed to taking a pick with that. They're going to take a play with that. So after a few teams pass, it probably becomes pick 70, 65 or something like that. In terms of their first pick, I think they've been linked to Aiden Bonar. It's very important I pronounce that correctly. Aiden Bonar in the first round, or Hunter Clark if either of them are available. Also been linked to Nathan Murphy. Yeah. There's that forward flanker. I think I talked about him earlier. As a forward option. Now, these players are actually ones that have been linked on the internet and through the media as to actually being picked up by the Dogs. Another one is Constable. So quite a few options they could go for. They probably do need a few mids and maybe some general defenders and even another small forward or something like that. So. Yeah.
Do you think they'll go a ruckman?
Well, they took Tim English last year.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't think they really need to spend another first rounder on them. Maybe maybe there's a mature age.
Well,
option
so
later.
they got 9, 16, and then
82.
oof.
Yeah. So the 82 is going to be a real speculative one. It's
Yeah.
hard for us to speculate who's going to be available at 70 or whatever that ends up being. But there's a mature age small forward from Northern Territory, Adam Sambono. And he's probably someone, if available, they could probably take a mature age state league player. I'd expect if they got there's merit to that, especially in a shallow draft. So
Bit more of a general question. Any mature age rucks?
off
a bit
the
more of a
top of my head, Scott Jones from WA.
Yeah.
He's from East Perth.
Still pretty raw though.
Yeah, he is.
Jones
Yeah,
is,
I think he's like 25 or something. But yeah, I know what you mean by raw. Yeah.
As in, you probably couldn't just throw him straight into a team and to make an impact.
Sure. No. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to gauge the state league rucks. I don't really. I haven't paid particular notice to them. I'm sure there are some. I'm just ignorant to them.
I mean, how often does the mature age ruckman get drafted? I can't think of too many.
It's not often.
Like, it's not very
Callum
tall.
Sinclair, admittedly in rookie draft.
Wasn't Sandy
Sandilands,
older?
yeah.
Darcy Cameron.
Yeah, Dust Cam, because that's what I was thinking. That's what made me think that question. Actually,
Yeah.
Dust Cam was a sort of that player
But
last
yeah,
year.
it's not a
the state league
super
ruckman.
common thing.
I guess people, they think if they're not in development, AFL development early, then during that time, once they're about 22, 23, there's not too much potential left.
Yeah.
Until
It's okay. You can do a Matty Eagles and win the recruit.
I don't know. I feel like there's going to be a sort of a push towards the mature age route because you don't have to invest 5 years of development to these kids. It's hard. Obviously, you're not really expecting much of a return on investment for a ruck until they're at least 23. Generally, there are exceptions to that. So I think there's merit to at least always looking for the mature age types in the draft.
Yeah.
So I think there's been some successes. Callum Sinclair, you'd probably say, is a relative success for a rookie draft mature age prospect. They're probably the audio has just cut out again, but I believe Bush was rambling on about something about Mumford being a state league ruck. I'm not sure if that was true, was it?
I'm pretty sure he was like country. Because I remember hearing a story about him playing country footy and he weighed like 140 kilos.
Yeah, maybe.
Or
I'm not too
something
sure.
ridiculous like
You
that.
might be right. But anyway, that completely took the wind out of the sails. So we'll just have a look at St Kilda next. Now they have 4 picks inside the top 50, including 7 and 8, and 34 and 45. They're another team that's probably has built up a pretty good bank of youth, I would say.
Yeah.
Probably just lack real engine room talent. Plenty of good utilities, some good tools, and probably just need some real gun.
Yeah, you'd have to think. I think 2 genuine mids could be right in line here.
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw them chase Gaff and Sloan pretty hard, reportedly this off season, so that they obviously know what their deficiencies are. So with 7 and 8, I'd expect them to target at least one pure mid. Maybe.
I feel big-bodied mid as well because they got a lot of those faster, small mids. Like they need that big extractor clearance type guy.
Yeah.
Especially with Stephen and
That's a
Armitage
good
being
call.
their 2
That's
older
a good
mids.
call.
Yeah, well, there's a few options for that. Constable is one, probably the biggest bodied mid in the draft. Maybe a little bit early for him, but other than that, there's Hunter Clark, who we talked about. He's pretty, not tall, but quite solid. He's about
190, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm not sure what his latest height is recorded, but I remember seeing 186 not that long ago. So it's possibly shot up. But either way, he's pretty solid, and I would class him as pretty as a big-bodied midfielder. And then it sounds like they're pretty into Aiden Bonar that we talked about, who probably does classify as a big-bodied mid/utility, maybe not a pure on ball sense. Yeah, I think he's got midfield potential, but he probably hasn't proven himself as a.
with 7 and 8, I mean, they could almost basically take more of a risk on him. Really,
Yeah,
I guess in that
that's true.
sense.
Yeah, I mean, he's the one who's had 2 ACL injuries.
Yeah.
It was considered potential pick 1, I think, either last year or the year before. But, with 2 ACL injuries, he slipped down the rankings.
I think that they'll be praying that Shearer slips to that number 7. I think he'd be ideal for what they're looking for, a real just genuine, fairly classy.
Yeah, pure mid.
Mid, yeah, that's it, pure mid. He's already kind of got the runs on the board. He's had a really good tack cup.
Yeah,
So I think he's definitely one that Saints fans if you can grab him, I would go for him.
Yeah, someone like a Chera or a Brayshaw would, if he slides to their pick, would be their sort of pure mid safe option. And then on the other end of the coin, you have maybe the Bonar or Jaden Stevenson's another one we probably haven't talked about a lot.
Yeah.
As a sort of outside high potential but somewhat high risk option. Might not even just become a full-time mid. He might be a forward on bid, or probably a very good one. So
And as Bush has said, Constable's probably a good option if they want to go for that real big extractor. Yeah. Maybe possibly Darcy Fogarty, although I think he'll go a little later than that.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I think Constable, it's a bit early for him. That when they may consider him is if Chera and Brayshaw are both off the board, and as we say, they want to go for a pure mid. Yeah. That's when they would probably consider that, as opposed to going Stevenson and Bonar, who are probably two utilities.
Constable is very similar to Blake Acres, who they have as well. I'd consider. Kind of similar.
Yeah, I'd say Acres
Acres is probably more dynamic as a player.
Yeah,
more aerial. I'd say for sure. Blake.
Yeah, definitely.
Blakers.
Blakers. Yeah, no, that's a good name.
That's a nice little.
That's good
combination there.
Yeah. Probably a bit outside. I'm a huge fan of Blake Acres, as I've made very public in the past. But that's an interesting one. So later in the draft, they might go for some smaller mids in Bailey and Moore if they really wish to add to that midfield sort of talent.
Key defenders, I've got a note down here as well.
Yeah,
I thought key defenders as well, but I actually looked at their list and they've got a ridiculous amount. They've got like Jake Carlisle.
Hugh Goddard was a few years ago.
Hugh Goddard, exactly.
Yeah, right. If they did go down that route, they could go, as we talked about, Harry Petty.
Because I did think the exact same thing, sorry.
Yeah. Sam Taylor is another one.
You'd have to, if they wanted to keep forward, you'd have to think Norton would be a strong...
Keep back,
with maybe
that's the thing with 7 8 they could take.
Because I was considering Norton for our mock draft that's coming up later tonight.
Yeah, fair enough. The one we haven't done yet. Fair enough.
Well, I knew who I was picking for just because we haven't done it.
Thought about that 2-hour break we had before.
Exactly.
Thought about a lot of things in that draft. And then at 45, some of the more names we talked about in that range, Warple, Petruccelli, Parrish, as the inside mids that are later in the draft, but they could go through utilities as well. Now we move on to Hawthorn. Now it's a team we sort of probably criticised a little bit in our trade podcast. Because of their sort of indifference to the draft. Choosing to trade their first pick, which was 34 for Jarman Impey. And, we know that they haven't had a high pick for a while, other than maybe Burton. Yeah. So I think they could probably use best available talent across the board.
Yeah, well, I specifically spoke about, I think they got a really strong youth development, which is why they haven't... felt like they needed those super high draft picks. I think they feel like they can get the job done with
they top up nicely.
Picks. Yeah,
like the Isaac Smiths of the world, they've topped up with those younger sort of guys quite well.
Yeah,
is that what you sort of mean?
Exactly. I think they rely on their a bit like Sydney rely on good club culture to breed good players.
Yeah, I think in terms of their recruiting philosophy, they tend to go for players who can kick. So when you're speculating about who goes at 43 and 68, their picks, you probably sort of favour the more skillful types. So,
surely that if you're skillful types at that kind of pick range, there's a lot of deficiencies in the other side of the game.
Yeah, that's true.
Taken a lot earlier.
Yeah, that's true.
It. Yeah, one that comes to mind though is Joel Garner, who was pegged to go even top 10, 15 earlier in the year. He's slid in calculations because of an inconsistent year. Speaking to an Eagles fan, it would be, I think he's a bit of a Liam Duggan type. Just a bit of a utility.
Didn't we find a proper position throughout the year?
Possibly. Yeah, I mean, he played a bit forward, played a bit back, and a bit of midfield too. But he's pretty skillful, can take a mark, decent contested game. I think if production's an issue. But long story short, I think he might be appealing to them because he can kick. I honestly think that's just going to be a huge thing. Probably one of the best kicks around that
I think due to the whole Vickery situation, I think they need another tall.
Yep.
I think if they can pick up a tall player, that they should go for that. I mean, they've put all their eggs in the Vickery basket, and at the moment you'd have to put it down as a failure, and I'm sure they'd be very worried about how that's going to end up.
Yeah. Well, when you say eggs in that basket, he was a free agent, so they didn't trade anything for him as such.
They're paying him a pretty penny, though.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, yeah, your points are correct that it doesn't look like it's going to pay off. They do need key position talent, I agree. So if they take, you know, Claverino, Harry Paddy, these guys I keep mentioning, but they're probably the ones that are around that range that they could probably take as best available. Or they could reach for like a Ben Miller from South Fremantle we haven't talked about is a key forward.
I feel maybe Liam Ryan would be an interesting selection maybe for the Hawks. He'd add a bit of a dynamic factor to him. Maybe a bit of a Cyril in waiting type.
Yeah, I mean, they took Dale Garlett a few years ago for probably different sets of issues. But, I mean, they don't mind taking a risk, I guess.
Liam Ryan would be a bit safer than Dale Garlett.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Like, obviously, different sets of issues there. But... yeah, I mean, we haven't heard it linked, but like that doesn't mean anything.
I was just sort of hypothesising in my head, thinking.
They are a club that could
nicely,
take him. They might see it as a good opportunity to take some talent in a draft where they don't have good picks. So high risk, high reward, sort of an option there. So all right, moving on to the Pies now. Pretty inactive from memory from the trade period.
Yeah,
they go into the draft with picks 6, 38, and 56. I think that's right. We had to go at them for trading in that rookie. But in terms of their needs, I reckon they need talls front and back, and maybe some outside mids. I think their midfield generally is decent.
Yeah.
So the talent, I think, needs to be tall focused. Unfortunately, with pick 6, I don't know if that's going to happen.
There's a lot of hype around Brander, especially at that pick 6.
You think most of the talls at pick 6 is going to be a reach, though?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the real drama.
It's depending on whether they're picking for needs or on a best available policy. I think I've got a feeling they may take Brander though, just due to their real needs. But then again, who knows what goes on with the list management at Collingwood?
They haven't been linked to... fair call. No, they haven't been linked to Brander publicly. As I said, it doesn't mean nothing, but it doesn't mean anything rather. But two guys I actually think would be better than Brander as in terms of talks would be Bolter and Norton. I think they're both high potential. But I could see the Pies just going best available. They could get a Chera or a Brayshaw out of it, or a Hunter Clark. You know, these guys. Pretty solid talents. Caulfield is another one. That's a good point, actually.
I like Caulfield. I watched some tape on him. I really liked him.
Seriously classy player.
He's got good size.
Yeah. The only knock on him is he's probably going to settle as a back flanker. So, when you're picking in the first 5, 6, 10 picks, you want someone who's probably going to play in a more influential position.
You don't see him ending up in the guts? I saw potential for him too.
I don't know. I don't really see the potential. By his own admission, he prefers a back flank.
Okay,
which isn't everything. But, it's a bit of an indication. And, I'm just saying there's always a risk with these sorts of players. Yeah. And I think he's he's probably played the least midfield out of, compared to the other utilities that we say could become midfielders, he's probably played the least midfield out of all of them. So, in terms of their picks, as I said, Harry Petty, Oscar Claverino, right into that late 30s range, Sam Taylor. It's hard to know who's going to be available around then, but I think they should probably go small with their first and then hope to pick up a tall later or a mature age. They might pick up Jonathan Marsh again, who they delisted, who went to East Fremantle.
He left though, didn't he, to go to East?
That's a good point, actually. You may have left on purpose.
Yeah,
you might be right. Yeah, he did. Never mind. That was a terrible point.
Came out of nowhere.
He was
shout out to the East Fremantle Football Club. I'm a big fan. What can I say?
Yeah, well, it sounds like he had a decent year, Jono Marsh. So
they're an interesting club, Collingwood.
Really hard to pick what they're going to do because it's usually nonsense.
I mean, they might be. I mean, I'm not sure how much of a say Buckley has over the selections, but he might be tempted to try and draft players for the now. He's pretty much playing for his job at this stage.
Yeah.
Based on his comments about the list manager, I don't think he has too much to do. Well, Chris Mayne, I meant.
Based
on his comments about the Chris Mayne recruitment, I don't think he has much to do with it.
He's just passing the buck there, isn't he? That's was pretty poor of him though.
It was shocking. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, as a head coach, to pretty much shift responsibility, that's very poor. But that's going into something else.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Questioned him
Yeah.
about that.
I think we've roasted Collingwood quite a lot on this
Yeah.
on this 2-episode podcast. Moving on, we have the Fremantle Dockers. So I know that you're very excited to talk about these guys. Very exciting.
Pusher.
Yeah, of course. Very exciting draft for you guys, considering you have 2 picks in the top 5. What do you want to see out of it? I want your opinion as a fan.
It's tough because I think we always have a best available approach. Personally, I don't think the talent of the tools is there in this draft, as we mentioned. So even though I know we need keys, I'd pretty much be happy if we took 2 midfielders. Obviously, I think there's a slight flight risk with Rayner. So I'd be pretty happy with Dow or Uniac. I like both of them. As with pick 5's a bit of a tough one. Personally, I'd like to grab Brayshaw.
So you're thinking two mids?
Yeah, I'd like to get 2 genuine mids. I really rate Brayshaw. He's one of my favourites from this draft. But I can understand why some Freo supporters might be keen for us to take maybe a Norton or someone like that, or even a Brander at 5. What about you, Busher?
This sort of makes me think, because I'm a big NBA guy, I'm more of a basketball guy. I love my footy as well, but I'm a basketball guy as well. But in the NBA, they actually do trades on draft night. So it'd be interesting to see that in the AFL, Fremantle could trade their pick 5 down to a pick where they could get Norton and get something else out of it, maybe.
Yeah,
be
not a bad
if
suggestion.
something like that came out in the AFL, I could see some interesting stuff happening.
It's an interesting one because it sounds like that's going to happen next year.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's going to make it a little bit complicated for the casual fan, but it will also make it entertaining, won't it? Because, I don't know if anyone's seen the movie Draft Day. If you're a draft nerd, like myself and probably everyone in this room, you're going to love the movie because it's all about the Draft Day trades.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It's a different dynamic completely. I'm pretty sure all the teams stay at home and then they call each other on the day of the draft between the picks saying, hey, do you want to trade?
Yeah.
So in terms of a spectacle, it could be really, really interesting.
I feel you with the draft. Literally, I've even told people the one day a year I'll have off is the NBA draft.
Yeah,
Not
I'm
even
saying,
a game 7 of the finals. I'll have the draft off before that.
Yeah, my birthday and the draft are 2 days. This is the AFL draft, 2 days apart. I would literally rather work on my birthday than the draft. Which my girlfriend.
Most of the just back to Fremantle.
No, we're NBA now, mate.
I thought we finished.
Most of sort of everything seems over the Rayner, Dow, Uniac, the top 3 pretty set, but that pick number 5 at the moment is just so open.
There's 4 seams open with North Melbourne.
Yeah.
Which dictates a lot of it.
So it seems like there's literally probably 10 different players that Freo could take at that pick 5 because they have that pick 2 as well. They probably have pick 5 can be seen as a little bit more of a luxury pick.
Yeah,
A bit of a gamble.
A bit more of a gamble pick.
I guess the argument for taking a tall at pick 5, just getting back to that, is that with 42, that's your next pick, obviously, no second rounder this year. You're not going to get a player that you can get with at 5. So, if you reach for a Norton, personally, I think Norton will be worth it at 5. Obviously, it's subjective to an extent, but the argument for that is obviously at 42 you might not be able to get the tall you want. Maybe later in the draft you look at guys like Johnny Frampton, brother of Billy who went to Port Adelaide, from South Fremantle.
Peter.
I know a few fans were keen on Coleman Jones if he's available.
Yeah, possibly. Quite possibly.
42.
Yeah, as a good forward ruck option.
Yeah.
I'd say your 2 greatest needs are probably key forward, and you probably need to replenish a few inside mids.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. Those guys, Mundy and co, probably starting to get on a little bit.
Yeah, you lost 3 smalls this year as well through trades. Crozier.
I think I think a sort of we've got lots of good runners. I mean, both Hill brothers, Daniel Pearce, Walters has moved up sort of into that role now. Yeah. So
you could probably use a few meat and potatoes mids, as they say.
We've got Wilson as well.
Yeah.
So I think we can cover Weller pretty good with how the list is currently.
You probably just need a bit more grunt. You have the polish, I think, in the midfielder. You need a few... It's kind of the opposite. opposite to the problem to the Eagles, who have probably always had the grunt and lack of polish in recent years. It's not a bad position to be in, especially when you got 2 picks in the top 5. So
Yeah, definitely. They're probably pretty happy with. I've got notes here. Their key position defenders. I mean, they just listed Collins.
Yeah.
So they must be pretty happy with probably where they are in terms of.
I think as a fan, they are. From what I've read, they're pretty happy with Hamling. Alex Pearce, he's had a few injuries, but he's shown real promise.
He's back on the track, I saw the other day, which is a good thing.
So I think they're pretty happy.
Brendan Cox, they think's more of a back as well.
Yeah, Brendan Cox is a beauty. Yeah. But the thing is, well, you guys you're taking probably minimum 7, possibly 8 picks with all your delistings. So you could get a mix of players as well. You might pick up a few project hauls near the end of the draft. I could definitely see that happening. Probably 7 or 8 small players are probably overkill. So I'd say the chances of you getting like a tall somewhere in the draft is pretty high.
I'd love to take Liam Ryan at some point.
You probably have the picks around that range to suit that.
From all the online chat, it sounds like there's other teams that are more keen. Personally, as a fan, though, I'd love to get him just because he's going to bring people through the gates. He's super exciting. I think he could be really decent at AFL level.
You think that massive cockroach?
Yes, I spotted a massive cockroach.
I wonder.
It's right under you.
It's over there now.
Is it?
Production value is
Is it too? Because I saw one like right.
Okay.
Just constant audio issues and roaches. Please like, comment, subscribe. Now, moving on from Freo, we have the North Melbourne Kangaroos. That sounds weird. Picks 4, 23, and then a big gap until 64. Now, as we talked about in the trade podcast, going through a bit of a rebuild, probably need talent across the board, I reckon. But I'd say primarily midfield is where they should probably focus their picks, especially with the picks they do have.
I know Stevenson's done a bit of training with them. Personally, I think either Stevenson or Chera are right in the line. For that pick 4. Yeah.
I think they came out and said, I know this probably could be smoke and mirrors, but they're talking about considering 8 players or whatever it was for their pick 4, which reflects the evenness of the picks that they face. You know, there's Stevenson, there's Chera, as you said. Brayshaw's got to be a consideration for them, and then you've got, you know, if they decide they want a tall Brander or Norton. You know, I actually think if they took Punter Clark, it wouldn't even be that much of a reach. Personally, that's because I rate them.
Yeah, this could definitely be a draft where a late first rounder turns out to be the best player. In that draft. It's a hard one to pick.
Pick 4 is definitely hard. I think there's so many sliders. Rayner, Fogarty down. Like it's.
I think 4 is seen
hard.
as like the next group. So there's the top 3 of
definitely.
You said that a lot in drafts where there's like 3 guys on each side. These are the guys.
And then I think there's considered to be a gap. But who really knows until...
23 is another interesting one for him because I think they've been linked to Tim Kelly.
I
think at 23 that's probably a bit of a mistake. I think they should probably go youth focused.
That would be a mistake.
I think so too. I think they've shown an interest in getting ready-made talent for some reason. I don't think they really want their rebuild to be prolonged.
It seems like I can understand that, but I think they probably do need to, like, they've been topping up recently for a while and with very low success rates. I think probably a 23-year-old midfielder. I'm not too sure.
It looks like they're aiming to be that team that can't win a flag but won't get the number 1 pick ever, so they'll be in purgatory where they don't get good enough picks to really improve. But
I think West Coast it's probably a fair description of West Coast.
Oh, definitely.
Anyway, I think I honestly wouldn't hurt North to just do the rebuild properly. Not offer 2 first rounders every year. For mind you, you'd be happy with Josh.
You could see an O'Brien or a Lachlan Fogarty, Zach Bailey sort of being in the radar.
Zach Bailey would be a great selection. Brian Myers, as we talked about, really good value talent around there. As you said, Lockie O'Brien, I think he could be slide into contention there. You know, there's plenty of talent there. They don't have to reach for Tim Kelly. I think it's just a little bit early for him. And then in terms of forwards, Sam Bono, one we talked about, there's another small forward called Brent Daniels from Victoria that they could take later in the draft. again, it's really hard to speculate when it's pick 64. So we can probably move on to Carlton to that end. Now, as we move down the ladder, it's getting a little bit more interesting because clubs have these earlier picks.
Yeah.
So Carlton have 3, 10 and 30, and then 73 after that. But with 3, you might say that they'll probably just take whoever's left out of Rayner, Davies, Uniac.
Yeah, you'd have to assume that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. What do you reckon, Louis? Do you think Rayner will be available at 3? I think that's probably the way it's looking.
Yeah, I don't know. I can just see Rayner being a Fremantle pick in my mind. I'm not sure why. It's in my mind.
I think Freo are quite. I think they're prepared to take risks at the draft table.
Yeah, that's
You know, I think they're quite. I don't know what the word is. Not relentless, but like
Aggressive?
Yeah, that's probably a good word for it. They're quite aggressive, and I think they'd back themselves in to try and keep a Rayner. And I definitely agree with that. I can share that. But if you just sort of look at what's being said, I don't know.
I would say our retention is quite good. Like this season's been a bit of an outlier.
Yeah.
I'd say because Harley Ballock, we pretty much knew that when we drafted him.
Yeah.
We knew you hear all this stuff about he loves his mum. His mum doesn't want him to leave.
Yeah.
Plus his dad was going to offer to pay his
Yeah,
contractor
exactly.
saying to stay.
Yeah, he's
Stay in
real
Melbourne.
family kid, so you could tell he was going back. But at the pick that Freo took Ballock, he was worth the gamble.
Yeah.
Because he was like potentially a top 10 pick, and we got him at pick 30 or whatever it was.
That's bizarre. Just the whole Ballock situation from the moment he left.
Yeah.
There was just something rotten there.
Yeah.
Like
What's the rumours around Rayner? They doesn't want to.
bit of a flight risk. So the word is that he wants to play the G every week. I think that's the idea. So mind you, playing at Perth Stadium will be pretty decent.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't know. I guess it's just that he's a bit.
I don't think any Fremantle supporter would be upset with us taking Rayner.
He's probably one that can play well straight away as well. He's not someone you have to put a massive investment into, and then you're going to lose him after 4 years.
So again, Carlton. Getting back onto Carlton, we probably think that they'll probably get the third out of those top 3 available.
At this stage, we'd probably say it's Rayner.
Pick 10 is a very interesting one because there's so many possibilities.
Yeah.
Could be a Caulfield, someone like that. I think could be right.
Could be available,
in that range.
Because that role would be handy for him. Sorry to cut in there. But that halfback role, like even if he's going to stay in that role as we were talking about earlier, that could be handy for him.
They might be really hoping that a Hunter Clark, I'd say there's a small chance he would still be available around that range.
Yeah, I think it also depends who they get with pick 3, who they take with pick 10. If they take Rayner, admittedly, he's a high level talent, probably could be a very good midfielder, but he's also still a flanker primarily. So they might not take a Caulfield at that pick. They may go for Hunter Clark, who is probably more of a accomplished midfielder. Same with Charlie Constable. They may even go tall. I don't think they necessarily need to go tall, but if they did, Noah Balta is another one that could take just because high risk, high reward, and they've got 2 picks in the top 10, so they may be more prepared for that. Or Jaden Stevenson.
Jaden Stevenson. I think he'd probably go before pick 10, but there's always a couple of sliders, isn't there?
There is, also, it sounds like they're a big contender for Tim Kelly. So the 2 main contenders for Tim Kelly seem to be West Coast and Carlton, and we also mentioned North. It sounds like as again internet goss, Carlton flew out specifically to Perth to meet with Tim Kelly only. So you'd think that means pick 30, not pick 10.
Yeah.
So if the Eagles don't take him with 26 and they try and outwit Carlton, I guess Carlton could easily pounce. Or Sam Hayes is another one. You'd think Sam Hayes that's probably the bottom of his range. Probably wouldn't go too much later than 30. He's a one that could go pretty much.
I think
about
they seem to be a little bit light on forwards. Carlton.
Yeah.
I think it's also a possibility that just someone like a Higgins with a bit of X factor could get taken around there as well.
Could definitely see that. There's quite a few possibilities for them because it's just because of the evenness of the draft that so many different players could be available. All right, now we move on to the Suns. Well known for this season for trading out heavily of the draft, giving away pick 2 to Fremantle, giving away tons of second rounders to West Coast.
Yeah.
As a result, they're left with 19, 41, 50, 54, and 76 should they use it. I think losing Ablett, Ahmed Saad, less so, but Ablett primarily, they're going to need to replenish their midfield. They get Weller in, but I think generally it's still probably the primary weakness for their list.
Yeah.
Personally. In terms of established talent, anyway. So you might think they might just keep going down that route. What do you boys think?
I couldn't see Weller in the guts, so they definitely need some midfielder. I don't see him as a guts guy. I see him as maybe Nathan Wilson, halfback flanker.
Yeah, I think he's
meters gained.
Currently, I think he's too
guy.
Small to play in the guts. If I'm honest,
he could be an outside mid / half forward.
Winger. He could be a winger. Definitely winger.
Well, that's kind of what Ablett was.
Winger, halfback.
Yeah.
Half forward.
I can see it be another bad year for him. That's all I can see.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing that makes it interesting, their decision to trade out their second rounder next year. Because if they don't improve against West Coast, that becomes a very small downgrade for us that we talked about in the trade podcast.
Yeah.
But,
isn't there also the possibility Tommy Lynch could leave? Because isn't he a free agent at the end of this year? So maybe.
Yeah, I think that's
they're sort
talking
of half heading in the right direction to persuade him.
They
would
could
be nice to see him sign on with the Suns.
I agree.
Hard to see.
Hard to see him just go to.
It's just hard to see as a
not good
Gold
for the
Coast
league.
player why you'd want to stay. I mean, there's coaches coming through, leaving immediately. There's players that are just going off for big money elsewhere. There's you can't really see a future with the club.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy if you're from Victoria just to find a team that's probably throwing you so much money.
Yeah.
And you think, I'm just going.
Not Melbourne.
Why would you say the Gold Coast get flogged everywhere when you could go back home with your family? Probably play
money.
for a more prestigious club that you like more. You get paid more. Play in front of like 90,000 every week as opposed to 10,000.
It's hard. It doesn't seem like they have any sort of forward progression or like anything for play to look forward to.
It's interesting you bring that up because I think what could be a way out for them is their academies. We saw they took Jack Bowles last year, or Bowes, I can't remember how you pronounce that, sorry. It's not a lot. They're just recruiting Lucky Weller. This year they're getting a young fella called Braden Crossley. He's pretty highly rated key forward ruck for them. I think they maybe just need to change their recruiting focus to pick on character in terms of players who won't leave. Couple that with developing their
culture.
Academy players, their culture, their academy players well. They can get at least the first thing they need to do is establish a culture where they can retain the players they do have before they can really start thinking about pushing right up the ladder. I think they just need to stabilise, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, like Louis said, I think there's a little bit of a going concern. I would hate to think what would happen to them if they weren't being run by the AFL.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think it's good for the league if it happens. I'd rather see them stabilise and do well.
Yeah.
It's just, as I said, it's a matter of stabilising. In terms of their first pick, though, sorry, what were you going to say?
Loyalty.
Yeah. In terms of their
That's
first,
my notes.
You have actually written it three times.
Loyalty times 3. I was just going lazy.
So in terms of their first pick, there's a few options if they go small. You get relatively small. I was going to say they won't go for players you'd think are a flight risk. So someone like Darcy Fogarty, who is apparently a potential flight risk back to South Australia, if he's available at 19, which is no given. It's probably someone that
I'd gamble if I was Gold Coast and Fogarty was available at 19.
Yeah, I think I would as well.
I would have to gamble at 19.
I think if you could
He's
pick him
that
at
much of a
19,
talent.
that would be a good pick.
I'm not sure I would with the Gold Coast, specifically the Gold Coast. I understand that argument. It's fair. He's probably worth more than that. But I think I would go for a more reliable, fit country kid. I can't think of specifics right now. Maybe Matthew Ling, a seriously damaging halfback flanker. Or even a Constable, or a Zach Bailey, who's from Northern Territory. I think it's probably a little bit early for his range, but I think he's a pretty safe bet. And, he's not going to go home to Northern Territory.
I don't think 19 is too much of a reach
Yeah.
for Bailey at the end of the day. I think maybe, hindsight would treat Gold Coast nicely if they chose Bailey at 19.
Yeah, I agree with that. So that's probably my recommendation.
Yeah.
But, there's quite a few options for them, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
And moving on to
I think we were up to our lucky last call.
Bailey is a
Brizzy.
rural player from NT is probably ideal for Gold Coast as well. Because that's probably go home factor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he's a midfielder. So ticks all the boxes, really.
I don't know. I might rather play in the NAFL for a Northern Territory team than the Gold Coast.
Nah. I like the Gold Coast. I don't get this.
They're all right. It's just like,
It's
all
just
right.
the non-threatening.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved Richmond for years, now I hate them. So
Can't stand them.
yeah, now they're threatening. Brisbane Lions picks 1, 15 and 18 now. Similar to the Gold Coast, they do have player retention issues, at least in the past. Probably do have a few local talents now that they like, especially that Eric Hipwood kid. But so in terms of their needs, though, they probably, same as Gold Coast, need genuine mids to rebuild that engine room, and then maybe some mid-sized defenders, of which there are a couple around there. So pick one. Who would you take?
Come back to that later.
Well, because you're actually taking.
That's
the
me,
number
yeah.
one pick, so-
Yeah, okay. So there is the argument, I guess, of Rayner, Dow, Uniac. Personally, I think they need to adopt a sort of a mindset where they avoid the likely homesick players. That's why I think they might not look at a Rayner. It would be a bold move anyway. So for me, it comes down to Dow versus Uniac. Honestly, you could flip a coin at the moment.
Yeah.
Maybe Dow is probably the more professional of the two. Maybe that means he's likely to stay longer. I think he's a very safe bet there, Dow. So that's my view. What's your view?
It's tough. I think Dow's a safe bet. I also think Uniac's a safe bet, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
So, to be honest, I still think it could even be Rayner, because I think Rayner, he will be considered as the best in the draft. So I wouldn't be surprised if they say, let's draft this kid, let's just, try and tie him down to a contract early.
Yeah.
Just really breed the Brisbane culture into him.
Yeah, I mean,
at some point you have to say that you can't be afraid not to pick players just because of the fly risk, because then you're just going to miss out on talent.
I agree, that's a good point.
And also, there's probably the trick, because while the kid's still fresh in the AFL, like in their first pre-season or whatever, give them an extension, so even if they do want to go, you can trade them for value.
Yeah.
Or
did
you
with
can lock
Chase.
them into
Then
a
you
contract.
get a bit of a Weller situation where you could potentially get more than what the player's worth.
Yeah, because as you
they're
said,
contracted.
people have to pay overs for contracted players.
On the other hand, with Josh Schache, though, he left for...
I think that's more of that was a performance-based thing that hurt his...
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, but he was contracted and he picked 2 and they had the right to hold on to him and they didn't exercise that right. Another question.
I think this shapes as a really key draft for Brisbane, because as you said, they've had some good talent coming through, and if they could nail a couple of picks in this draft, they would have a really good solid group of youngsters coming through. So we haven't talked about pick 15.
No.
That's also a really interesting one. It's so hard to predict because you just don't know who clubs are going to take. But I think we've mentioned of quite a few names around there. It depends if they choose to go for a mid. You'd think a midfield, so you'd think they'd probably skip a Brander and Norton and an Oscar Allen and maybe...
Well, they've got another academy player, Connor Ballenden. He probably won't cost them a pick in the top 20, even though he's quite talented. He's a key position defender. So I think that kind of rules out a Brander or a Norton. I think they're actually pretty all right for tools anyway. So
it's probably speed. I've got outside mid speed, probably Locke O'Brien. Especially at 18, maybe reach at 15.
So between 15 and 18, there's a variety of players. They could go a medium defender in Ed Richards or Ling, as we talked about. Higgins may still be on the board. We don't know for sure, but that would be a great result for him. Lockie O'Brien's another good one.
They've lost
Constable.
Rockcliffe, so I think a Constable or a Darcy Fogarty could be...
Darcy Fogarty's another good one because
around there.
Just because you got 3 picks in the top 20, you can afford to take a risky one and high ceiling, you could say.
Even if they've got pick 40 and 44, you can get a really decent player, especially in a draft like this, around. So I think they could be really onto a good draft here.
I think
they just have to ace it, don't they? They really do have to ace it.
Yeah. I think Lockie Fogarty's another name we didn't mention. I think that he could bolt into that range as a real inside, outside, smaller mid, admittedly.
Again, we mentioned O'Brien.
O'Brien and Fogarty would be good for them.
Lockie Fogarty as well.
That's who I said.
Oh, I didn't.
I
was saying Darcy Fogarty.
Right. Okay, no. Well, both Fogarty's a potential. Yeah.
Darcy probably be a reach at that 15.
Get both.
Darcy.
Get both. Keep him at the club.
See, Darcy's a really tough one. A lot of people say he's the best talent in the draft.
Yeah, he divides
He's
people.
got
That's what I'm saying. He's not going to be
the
picked
type
15.
of player he is. He has an extremely high ceiling. I could see him being an extremely good player, but I could also see him
being a flop.
It's such a tough position as that like in between key and like mid.
He's a hard one to assess because he had an injury-riddled season.
Yeah.
Had that game where he played for South Australia and registered 4 disposals for the game.
Against Vic Met.
Yeah. He's carrying an injury. We don't know if he just can't win the ball or he's injured. So, real questionable one. For me, I think for those reasons, he falls past 10 personally. I've seen plenty of phantoms where people see him as high as pick 5 for Fremantle. So, a real questionable one. Be very interesting to see where he ends up.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't pick him at 5, eh? We'll get on to that.
I think...
Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say it's probably a good time to move on to... Maybe we can all go through, before we do our Phantom Draft, and just nominate some players we do think are going to be bolters and sliders. We've kind of talked about it a bit already. Anyone in particular that you want to nominate?
Brayshaw is the one for me.
Yep.
I just think he looks really classy in terms of a bolter. Yes.
Yep.
I think he'll bolt. I think he possibly could go as high as pick 4 to North. I think his draft camp really pushed him up the order. He just excelled in so many athletic tests.
Yeah.
But he's also a really good ball user.
Yeah.
So I think he's a pretty safe bet.
And there's a Brayshaw connection for North as well.
Yeah.
So if he decides, they decide.
Well, there's a connection with Brayshaw in a lot of clubs. The two WA teams. I mean, he's got a lot of family in WA. Obviously, he's got a brother at Melbourne.
Yeah.
He's got family connections to North. So it opens the door for a lot of clubs to pick him. As for sliders, it's a tough one. Personally, I think Brander, just because I think people might rate the mids and the smaller guys as the higher quality players in this draft.
Cool. Yeah. No, good call. Louis, I'll let you take over for the next one. Nominate a bolter or slider or multiple.
Yeah, it's got to be Bonaire, doesn't it?
Bonaire.
I'm going to call him Bonaire because I can't figure out how to do
The Fresh Prince?
Fresh Prince.
Bonaire, Nicolas Cage, was it?
Yeah, Bonaire, Steve Buscemi. That's what I was going for. Fresh Prince of Bonaire's better.
I don't know. Bonaire with Nicolas Cage is a great call. I kind of wish I thought of that.
He's the bolt for me. He had a great second half of the season. He just absolutely aced the agility test, speed test at the combine.
Yeah,
I can see him bolting.
Yeah, the big.
I can see him going.
Papua New Guinea and Wonderlord. Do you? So when you say bolt, you mean top 10?
I'm thinking definitely top 10.
Yep.
I'm thinking.
I think that's a good call.
There's a bit of talk about St Kilda, isn't there?
And the Dogs are the other team. I think.
Dogs,
I think St Kilda could definitely have a risk at him at 7 or 8, especially the Bulldogs at 9.
Yeah. No, good call.
Especially.
Do you have a slider for us?
Well, I don't want to go down. It's going down the same route as Joycey. I'm going like Norton. I'm just thinking key position players are just gonna slide this draft.
Yep.
I think the tendency is just going to be for mids, especially mids till. Yeah, at least most of the top 10. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I think if he does slide, any team that takes Norton will get a deal. Because,
definitely.
Even the West Coast, I wouldn't be upset if we took him, despite having absolutely no need for him.
I think everyone acknowledges he's talented.
Great play,
But I think a lot of clubs are sorted for a tall back.
Yeah. It really comes down to which club is picking at his range. So. All right, cool. I'll go with a few of mine. I reckon Hunter Clark will bolt into the top 6. I'm being bold here. I reckon at least Collingwood, maybe even North. I'm being a bit cheeky there. I don't think, maybe not, but it's not off the cards. Nathan Murphy, I think will go top 10. And in terms of sliders, I sort of alluded to the fact Darcy Fogarty, I think, will miss the top 15. And I think Lockie O'Brien will slide into the 20s despite plenty of people thinking he's top 15.
Okay. So who do you think is guys best talented in this draft. So, Bush, who are you going to say?
Most talented. Rayner, I'd say.
Rayner,
He just seems like he's got that transcendent talent.
Mm-hmm. I'll go with a different one. I think Rayner will probably be the best player. I'm going to go with the left field one. I think Hunter Clark, as I've said like 5 times, I think he will be the Darcy Heppel of this draft in that he comes from outside the top 5, probably, and establishes himself as early on as one of the best few players. So that's my view.
There was another one I was going to mention for Bolter if I got asked. I'm not sure if I'd say Bolter exactly, but I really like Charlie Constable. He reminds me a lot of Patrick Cripps. Like I read that comparison and I really like. He's got that size.
Players like that.
He'll probably grow another couple of centimeters. He looks his frame. He looks like he can fill out.
Yeah.
Big players like that, same as Darcy Fogarty. The ceiling is so high for them because if they do become good, they can just become absolute beasts.
Yeah, he's got the potential to be an absolute clearance beast.
I think it would take a little while for him to mature because he's got to have that physical advantage at AFL level. He has that at the 18s.
I think he has the frame to get there.
Yeah, I agree. He just needs to put the meat on the bones. It's probably going to take 3 years.
How many kilos is he? Do you know?
Not off the top of my head.
It's like 80 something, I think.
83 at 190, but that might
I'd
be
like him to about like 87,
stat.
90.
Yeah,
you'd think he'd get to 90 from his frame, I reckon. Yeah.
Louis, so...
Yeah, it's a hard one. I was going to say Hunter Clark as well, but...
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard. I want to say Bonnet.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it just could be anywhere. Anyway. So everyone else has taken all the good ones.
I gotta say it's Bonner.
Yeah, I know who Bonnet is, but sounds a bit French as well. Bonnet.
Bonner. Sounds like a French person saying boner. I have a bonnet.
I have a bonnet. The West is Bonnet. Oh God. Nothing about that's attractive, mate.
Yeah, welcome to the Footy podcast.
Yeah. Bloody hell.
I'm just going hard. I'm gonna say.
Oh, what?
You're going hard for Bonner.
Sorry, boys. Keep the camera away from me. Just for a while.
Shit.
Personally,
you're on camera probation.
Personally, myself, I'll go.
Oh yeah, you got.
I think I can't look past Rayner, if I'm honest. But I think Chera is one that could end up to be a really, really good player out of this draft. And I think maybe because he's seen as a little vanilla, people might be overlooking him a bit. But I think he could be a really decent player.
Yeah. Little Vanilla. That was my name in high school.
What's the name of your penis?
I hope there are no kids watching this.
Little Vanilla was your name in prison, right? I was referring to the fact that I went to a high school where I was like one of the only white kids, but that backfired. Yeah, don't drop the salt, Little Vanilla.
I didn't know we had a podcast where you told your life story for all the inside jokes.
Well, yeah, I do. Yeah. Well,
yeah, tell us more.
Lily Vanilli.
I like how he did it in Hispanic accent. Hey, Little Vanilla. All right. Now, boys, this is what everyone came to see, I'm sure. We're going to do our True Footy podcast, Phantom Draft. Now, how it's going to work, we're all going to go around and select a player.
Yep.
Why are you smirking at me? That was not necessary.
Thought you were going to say clockwise.
No. No. So we're going to go through the picks. We'll start with Louis. He's going to have pick 1, and then we're going to go through the clubs each, and then we'll eventually get to 20 and stop, and that will be our Phantom Draft.
Yep.
For the time being. We might release a final one the day before the draft. But Louis, you have pick 1 with Brisbane. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can have a little graphic for people watching this so they can keep track of. Yeah, we better deliver on that, otherwise that's going to look weird. But Brisbane Lions, Louis.
Please don't bother doing it. Yeah, no, that's too hard.
All right, we're going to put a graphic up. Yeah.
What the fuck did you say?
We've had enough technical issues tonight. Stop promising the world. We've had enough technical issues.
Clip art. No.
Oh, I see you're making a graphic for a podcast. Can you please a little clip, a paper clip?
Anyway, we got pick 1. Louis, take us away with the Brisbane Lions.
I'm going LDU. Luke Davies. I gotta get this right. How to say this? Uniac. Yes.
Oh,
not
nailed it.
Not Unaki.
Yeah.
As I've been saying.
Not unicycle.
Not unicycle. Luke Davies. Uniac. Go to that time.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
Pretty hard.
All right, Joycey, you have pick 2 with Fremantle, your beloved club.
Yeah.
who do you think will go pick 2? Or who would you take as Fremantle pick 2?
I'd probably take Dow.
Yep.
I'm going to lock in Dow. I just think he's a real quality player. Seems really professional, good young kid. So, I'm going to lock in Dow.
Yep. Pick 3, Carlton. Bush, what do you reckon?
Well, I'm going to have to take the easy option here, say Rayner, because, he's obviously the most talented player in the draft. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be facing this camera or what, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to embrace it. Enjoy the movie. But Rayner. I'm taking Rayner because he's a good player. But no, seriously, he's a very good talent. He's got Dustin Martin-like abilities. He's a good player.
Oh, God.
I'm going to transition this one to Jesse before I goof up some more.
Jeez, we are so professional. All right, pick 4. I've got North Melbourne. I'm going to go with a bit of an odd one. I'm going to take Brayshaw at pick 4. I actually think he's...
Not Hunter Clark?
I was very close to taking Hunter Clark. I think I'm just going to go with Brayshaw. Just a bit of a safe option. I think in their rebuild, North Melbourne probably needs some surety, if that's the right word. So I've gone for the safe option, Andrew Brayshaw.
Yeah.
Now, pick 5, you're up, Louis. Who would you take for Fremantle?
I'm going hard. I'm going Darcy Boggy.
Again?
I'm doing it.
You are an Eagles fan. You want to screw the Dockers,
No, I think it's good.
Darcy Fogarty, was it?
Yep.
All right.
No, it could turn out to be a good pick, I think.
Yeah.
I reckon he's got a really high ceiling.
Well, I was saying, if you're going a good good, not safe pick, but at pick 2, you're predestined to have a pretty damn good midfielder. I think Foggy's ceiling is pretty high. Yeah.
I guess at the very least he could become a half-decent marking target, which is something Fremantle could use. So
Mate, don't undermine it.
Yeah,
right? I don't give for anything. They can put him in the forward pocket. Like,
all right. Pick 6, Collingwood, Joycey.
Yeah, I'll probably go Stevenson here. I think he is a little bit of a risky pick, but he's had some absolute standout games, and you can't really look past that. I think potentially he could be a really good player, so I'd have to go Stevenson.
He's a very hard one to pick, so I give you respect for taking him there. Respect. Bush, hit us with pick 7, St Kilda.
I'm going to put the camera down again, bugger it.
I'm going to go for Rayner again.
Cam Rayner.
Get him up.
Just every pick in the draft, Cam Rayner. But no, all kidding aside, I'm going to go with Charlie Constable. I feel that big. Constable. It is Constable.
No, that is the way you say it, but it just sounds harsh on the ears. Yeah,
the fat Constable.
That
makes sense. Constable care.
I'm going to make a terrible pun here, but I feel that Constable can really rise through the ranks here and be a very good big body midfielder. But I feel he's like I said before, he's that Patrick Cripps type, which is what St Kilda need because most of their mids are that smaller, like sub 185 type midfielder that's more agile and pacey. But he's just a bull who'll go in there, get the ball for him, and get it out to those guys. So I think he'd complement them nicely.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah, he could really be the officer they're looking for.
Yes, real genuine.
I'm not the only one to make a police officer pun there.
Well, with pick 8.
Oh my god, arrest me.
This is so bad. Pick 8, Hunter Clark for St Kilda. I'm going to... I was going to make a
You were
Hunty
destined
pun.
to take Hunter Clark.
I was going to take a Hunty pun. Yeah, I actually think he's great value at pick 8, so I will take him there.
Yeah.
Roll it back to pick 9, Western Bulldogs, Lewis.
Bonaire.
Yeah.
Wrong Bonaire.
Yeah.
Strong second half of the season. Bolting into the top 10. Yeah. Was it equal the all-time standing vertical jump? I mean, that's not bad going. Two knee recos, 2.9 second 20 metre sprint.
Athletic.
Somebody's done their research. I'm impressed.
Well, that's 3 things. Let's not get there. That's it.
Nah, good stuff. Good stuff. Good selection. Now we have moved on to pick 10, Carlton, Joyceberg. What do you reckon?
Yeah, have to go Chera here.
I can't believe he's on the board still, actually.
As I said, I think he's the one that could really surprise people out of this draft, and I reckon Carlton would be pretty lucky to get him at pick 10.
Yeah, totally agree. Very good value selection for them, getting a pure mid from Chera in addition to Rayner, so they'll be pretty happy with that selection, I think.
Yeah.
GWS, Busher, you're back on the clock.
Cam Rayner, but no. I think that joke's died this time. I'm not
No, it's good. Do it again next time.
I felt this was a real easy pick for me. Jack Higgins. I feel he adds that, like Steve Johnson, sorry, not Steve Smith. Steve Johnson. not the Australian cricket captain. Steve Johnson and Devon Smith have both left GWS, and Jack Higgins can play that like crafty forward type role for them quite well. Add a bit of X factor in the forward line.
Yeah, good pick.
With your traditional big targets like Lob, Cameron, Patton.
He's got real X factor, I reckon, Higgins. I reckon he could be a real like stand-up player, real finals type player. I could see him being.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good description. I think GWS is supposedly into him as well, so that's a good selection for them. Now back to me. I've got the Crows at pick 12. I'm going to take best available here. Nick Caulfield. Probably most wouldn't expect him to be on the board. He's still here. I could see it happening on the actual draft night. Just a very smooth moving, very classy halfback, potentially outside mid. So. Very good selection, I think, for Adelaide, if I do say so myself. Louis, you've got pick 13 with West Coast. The pressure's on. You better get this right.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking most of the top line midfielders, especially this fam draft, are probably gone. And I can see West Coast going for Oscar Allen, which is what I'm going for. It's a bit, I don't know, it's kind of a conservative pick because he's from WA. I mean, we've probably seen a lot of him.
We do like our WA like medalists.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so I can't see us going for, even though there are more key position like Branzer and Norton's still here. I don't know. It just seems like such a West Coast thing to do.
I think it's justified in the sense if you're going to take a tall, you might as well take a tall forward, especially if they can rotate through the middle.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just the lack of exposure. I think in the midfield. This year. I mean, supposedly play a few games there, but...
Had a good game at the end of the year, 27 touches, 16
contested. And I could... it's quite West Coast to pick a player on a good game at the end of the season.
Got maybe a comparable player. What would you say about a Jack Darling comparison, for like that sort of size?
I think he's got more midfield applicability, but in terms of position, it's not a bad comparison. He's a good marker around the ground. I'd like to think he can play midfield better.
Yeah, because I know you guys have experimented with Darling in the mid and it's mixed results.
Yeah, no, it's mostly all shit. But,
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah,
I was trying to not sound like a Dockers fan too much there and absolutely destroy the man.
I think he's a good forward, Darling, but...
he's not very good below his knees, I think. Yeah.
In
terms of picking up...
moving on.
In terms of football.
So, that's it.
Who we got now? Joycey, you've got Sydney with pick 14. Who's your choice?
Again, I definitely could see them picking a mid here, but I went Brander purely for the fact that he's slid. And I think maybe around, if he was still available around this part of the draft, they might see it as too good of an option to pass up on him.
Yeah, I think he presents as a pretty good... best available, especially tall. You might say, unless they took Norton, who I would also say is pretty close to best available tall. But it's a good pick. We'll go back to Bush with pick 15, Brisbane Lions.
I've gone one some people would consider a reach here, but I've gone with Sam Hayes, the ruck forward. Like I like the look of this kid. I've got to say, they say he's primarily the ruckman, which I'd say is handy for Brisbane, who need a man in waiting for Steph Martin when he. But apparently he can also play forward. Like we haven't seen much proof, but he did kick 6 goals in an attack game, which is quite impressive.
Yeah, that is.
And that's handy immediate coverage to help Hipwood down there, especially now that Shaki, who is probably their top key forward prospect, drove home. Literally.
Did he actually?
Yeah, that was an actual thing. How it was like reported he packed up his car with all his stuff from his house and drove home from Brisbane, like even after he'd signed the extension. So
yeah.
Jesus.
All right. Okay, looks like I'm back. Pick 16, Bulldogs. I'm going to take Nathan Murphy. I actually think this kid could go at 9 to the Bulldogs just because they've been linked to him, but he has a very impressive highlights package.
Yeah.
I reckon this year's Will Hayward will come in early and sort of like a stringer replacement, I guess, in that he's just...
You said he has a nice highlight package, so could he be the new package for the Bulldogs, maybe?
Package
stylistically a bit different. I actually think he's more explosive, not necessarily better, but I think he's going to be a good player at the very least, personally. So I'm very happy with him at 16. Louis, pick 17, Richmond.
From the Calder Cannons Football Factory, Noah Bolter.
Noah Bolter, yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
we talked about their need for a second tall at the very least. So
he's a bit versatile. I've got versatile written down here.
Yep.
Played well in the back line for Vic Metro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I can see it happening.
Real high reward option there. So good option. Joycey, you back with Brisbane Lions, pick 18.
Yep. I've gone for Lachlan Fogarty purely because I think he's the best available at this stage in the draft. Although I do think there is every chance he could go as high as Adelaide, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a bit of a tough one. So yeah, I'm going to lock him in for Brisbane.
Good call. Busher, pick 19, Gold Coast Suns. Who you got for us?
Well, I'm going to have to be a dick and throw a bit of a curveball in our mock draft here and make a selection for Patrick Naish to challenge Richmond to match my offer for him.
Okay.
And that sounded like my front camera just died, so...
You're off.
That's okay, I'll just talk for you. Alright, so if you bid on Naish, from my understanding, they would pretty much give up pick 25 to match that. In addition to that, I think they might lose their pick in the 50s. So let's assume for the purposes of this random they match that. I think they will in real life if that happens. So you're on the clock again with Gold Coast Suns.
Oh, I'm going to go an interesting curveball here. I'm going to provide some reasons why I'm probably going to get destroyed in the comments. You don't get to see me anymore because my front camera died, which is good, so I can hide behind the camera on this particular call here. But I'm going to have to say Tim Kelly. I'm reaching. I'm reaching for him. I think that Gold Coast need a bit more... Someone that's a bit more ready to go because now that they've lost Gary Ablett, they might want... He's still only 22 years old, don't forget, as well.
Yeah.
He's not exactly an old man by any stretch.
Yeah, that is a very...
it's a bit of a reach, but I really like his talent as well. He's like a...
It's a pretty early reach around pick 19.
He can give him something up forward, he can give him something in the gut.
It's
like
a reach,
it's a reach.
Style.
Yeah.
He can give him something in the gut.
It's a reach, but I can see your reasonings behind that, so I don't think it's...
I'm conceding
ridiculous.
it's a reach. I'll definitely concede it's a reach.
No, I don't think it's as
I didn't really...
as it sounds.
It's more I didn't like the other midfielders available. I felt they were a bit little framed for what I wanted Gold Coast to go. So I thought they were a bit light of body, if you will.
I'm a loaded body. Love it.
Oh, the mental age has just descended so much since the start of this podcast.
Yeah,
I think we've been doing it too long.
We're so
tired.
What time is it? It's like
12:30.
Holy crap! It's 20 to 1.
We started at fucking 7 o'clock. Excuse my language.
All right, guys. I'll wrap it up. I've got what is now pick 21 with Richmond. Go for the best available, Aaron Norton. I think maybe Richmond don't need to go for two talls, but he's just purely the best available pick 21. I think he's going to be one of the better key backs of his generation. Personally.
Who are their key backs other than Rance as well, really?
I think they've got Grimes who plays
Broad.
Nathan Broad, the topless photo guy.
Yeah.
Still, Norton would have more upside
Aussie
than
hero,
those guys. He could potentially overtake those guys.
Yeah, well, I think I feel like he's a bit of a Barras type, Norton. So a little bit different to most shot down key backs. He's very kind of almost not like a rebounding one, but more like an intercept key back. So I think his skill set is appealing to them. Someone who's
Bit light of body.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up the Phantom. I'm aware that this is probably close to 2.5 hours. I have no idea, actually, because we've had so many interruptions. We've gone through a lot of stuff. We talked about Hannah Mouncey, gone through the clubs one by one, and we finished off with our Phantom draft, which I'll post in written form, as well as a picks 20 to 40.
Don't forget the graphic, mate. We promised a graphic.
Yeah, you might see a graphic in there. So to finish up, boys.
Too graphic.
Yes, I do apologise for the level of at least the way our mental age dropped off towards the end of the podcast. It's been great having you, Louis. Hope to see you next time with us.
Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Busher, for having us have this great set. Hopefully we can just keep using it.
Absolutely, mate.
Even when you're not here, when we kick you off eventually.
Yeah, when I say something too politically incorrect and you can't associate with me anymore.
Yeah, well, that's happened
You're the new
like
Sam
5
Newman,
times.
mate.
Hey, mate.
Nah, he's the Trevor Marmalade.
Saying what everyone's thinking.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, on that
everyone in
note,
Rockingham, maybe. Shout out to Rockingham.
Rocking out.
On that note, guys, thanks for watching.
We are out of here.